Happy New Year, everybody, and Merry Christmas, of course, too. We've been we've been gone for a long time. A bunch of stuff happened. I really do apologize, and I hope Jason apologizes too, because it's definitely his fault that this was happening.
That's right. I am so sorry for all of the hangups and all of the delays in which I am solely responsible for.
Yeah, yeah. Screw you, Jason. So how you been, man?
Oh, I've been busy. I've been working on myself, been working on things around me, so things have been good. It's been a long year. I'm glad it's over. I feel like there's some light at this tunnel at the end.
Well, that's always good to hear, because I was probably gonna ask you about that, but are you still living in that same place?
Yes, since the last time we've talked, yeah. Probably gonna move somewhere different in the summer. But yeah, no, it's been good. Everything's been fine. Health has been good.
Where
Nothing's broken.
Where are you thinking about moving to?
I don't know. Somewhere close. I don't feel like I'm so spoiled. It's like, oh, I have a 7 minute commute. Oh, it's so hard to give up.
That is nice though.
Yeah,
7 minutes.
I
Dude,
know.
I wish I could just take a bike to my work or something.
To be fair, traffic around here sucks everywhere. So it's like even if I add another 20 minutes, it might be 2 miles.
Yeah, that's very true. Like especially in this kind of like 28 network area,
hmm
like that it'll take you like half an hour just to yeah, like literally just to go 2 miles.
It's ridiculous, but no, man, things
Yeah, I
good.
think
But you've been busy, right? Like a bee.
um yeah, but before that I actually wanted to bring up how I'm pretty sure like statistically Northern Virginia and then LA are like the two areas of the country that like on average like you spend the most time in your car.
Yeah, I've also heard somewhere that the commute on 95 from Fredericksburg to DC is like the worst in the country. I think beating out areas of Los Angeles.
Yeah, LA I think has the I mean I haven't personally driven there myself, but I just from everyone I've heard, yeah, like it's terrible.
I mean, I haven't been there on gridlock because I've seen some horror stories of like their 8 lane highways getting backed up, but most of the time their traffic moves. Like there could be a sea of cars, but at least you're fucking moving at a steady pace. Here, everyone does this fucking speed and slow brake check bullshit, and it's so irritating. It's like everyone's car here lasts like 3 years because they just wear the shit out of their fucking engine and their brake pads.
Yeah, I think well, I guess in that regard, it might be better. I'm not sure, but it's more so just the actual infrastructure
Yeah,
and
our
the
infrastructure's
way it's
terrible.
designed. Where like yeah, where like you have to have a car. That's really like it's even worse in LA.
Yeah,
Because at
and
least here, there's some nicer parts like that are more historic. Like Alexandria and stuff like that.
yeah.
Um, I mean, hell, if even if you live in DC, you don't really have to have a car, but then you got to live in DC. So
Yeah, you know how we never get political on this show, but the fix of our governments, whether it be the local and state level, decide that the only way to fix this problem for the influx of people moving in here from other shitty states to find a job in the tech and government industry is to build express lanes to make you pay for. And usually it's one or two that only go for, I don't know, maybe 5, 10 miles. So that's their fix.
oh yeah, I so wish like you
Super
could
hot take.
take,
Super
dude.
spicy.
I wish you could take an express lane or something to like New York. That would be pretty sick.
I can imagine what the cost would be. Like a fucking
I
parkway.
mean, yeah, but dude, like you know how much money we have that like we don't need to be spending that. We could totally get that done.
No, I'm not talking about the cost to build. I'm talking about the cost to use it.
Oh, you mean like for the toll?
Yeah, like how expensive would that be to go on a bypass or
I
a?
mean, people would totally take that. Like,
I don't know how much better it would be than 95 because then everyone would take it. I don't know.
yeah, but I mean, a lot of people that go to New York take a train. Like, what if it's $50 toll or something? Like, that's not that bad.
Well, the train tickets are expensive depending on when you get them. Most people take buses, like a Greyhound or something, because that's usually the
Oh yeah,
cheapest.
yeah, yeah. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, I've taken a bus to New York.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, dude, imagine if we had those like bullet trains. Like you could take like I saw like the distance that they go that they go to and from in like France and Japan. Like if we had the same exact bullet trains here, like you could get from Chicago to here in like 3 hours.
I swear I read something where they were proposing to build a bullet train from DC to New York that would basically get you there in an hour, but I don't think there's any way they're ever going to actually do that, or
Well,
anytime soon,
no,
rather.
that's never gonna happen.
Which would be insane.
Yeah, there's people in France that live in like the Riviera coast, like Marseille and Nice that like commute into France. Or sorry, into Paris.
I wish we had a train infrastructure. I like trains. I like the idea of being able to. And also, I've been trying to find, I mean, not looking very hard, but, you know, I don't know if there's one, it might be more out west, but they actually have like luxury train car rides that you can go. So, like, the train has an actual bar and you have a bed you can sleep on, and it's actually not a shitty train, like the fucking VRE, but.
Yeah, there might be like a I think there might be a train you could take from like San Francisco to like LA or something like that.
Or somewhere in the Southwest. I don't know. I
I
kind of want to do one of
think,
those
but
because
like
I
don't.
like the train culture.
All right, sorry about that, guys. I had some things I needed to delete on my computer. Um,
A lot of porn.
yep. If of course. But we were just talking about. I think I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I have to be retarded and not like think about this before. But we were talking about trains and like the train aesthetic and whatnot.
Very riveting stuff, yeah.
Well, that's also
I
nice
almost don't even
because
want to go back into it. It's not even worth it.
well, we're gonna go back into it. So
Fuck.
I actually like the concept of a train because like you don't actually have to drive. You could just like read a book the whole
Yes, that
time.
is its main appeal.
Yeah, and like you could study and stuff like that. You
It's
know,
really dumb, but I really want to. I have a lot of books that I need to read that I've had on my shelf for years that I've been telling myself I don't have time to because I'd rather do music or other things, and like being on a plane is really the only time that I've read. The last time I've read a book is on a plane like a year ago.
well, yeah, I mean, there's not much else to do, so
It's so dumb.
what it
But yeah, trains. If I would read all the time if I rode trains every day.
what is the books that you want to try to read?
I like a lot of ancient history. I have some Gnostic texts that I like to read. I also
Don't be
I like
don't be
philosophical
doing
things as
that.
well.
Um,
What, anything scholarly? If you, it's not like I fucking practice the shit. I just like the ancient concepts of it. There's a lot of it out there. Also like trying to read Machiavelli's The Prince. See if I can get my narcissism up.
I read that.
Manipulation game strong.
Um, yeah, I read that. That's like proto Redditor stuff
Yeah, I'm not, like I said, this is all
about like
purely scholarly. I'm
that's
interested
like
in.
Andrew Tate like fake masculinity of just like you just gotta be like and it's like
I
okay,
don't know,
that's
man.
great.
People tell me he's misunderstood. I've always known Machiavelli to be a psychopathic gaslighter.
No, but I
So
mean
people say
people
that
say
he's
that
has more
people
intense
say
stuff in
that
there that's
Nietzsche's
more nuanced.
misunderstood, but like that's no, like you're kind of missing the point. It's like his ideas are evil and have influenced like a bunch of bad shit that's happened in the world. So,
Well, like
um,
with everything, there's always nuggets of good advice and truth and all of the shit. I'm just curious to see what he actually said because the only thing I've ever heard is people making analogies to his work. It's like with Freud. The thing I really know about Freud is that he has a bunch of nihilistic, deep dark fantasies.
that's
So
also proto Redditor stuff. Like the fathers of modernism, which is um which is Freud, Karl Marx, um, Nietzsche, Darwin, and yeah, I guess you could put Machiavelli in there too. Like they're all proto Redditors. And
Well,
like
I've only really ever heard Machiavelli in a negative connotation, so I don't know too many people that.
really
I mean, I
a
guess the
lot of
Red
people
Pill.
love Machiavelli.
I guess I'm not too in tune with all the red pill shit these days, minus like when
Well,
Andrew Tate was popular, just like all the funny content he would make out. But like, I guess I can understand the premise of like, cause in the context of when that was written, he was like training people how to be a good fucking ruler for an empire, which no one is now.
oh well, I mean,
Well, people that are reading the book know it now, but
well, no, I mean, he would probably praise the rulers of today just for their like the propaganda and stuff, and like the
I meant the lay people reading it, not like governments and shit. That I mean, every tactic you can think of, like you can use the art of war to carry out whatever atrocity you fucking want. It just depends on what you do. Um,
well, I mean, the most famous phrase from Machiavelli is "the ends justify the means." That's like the kind of like like for Nietzsche, his big phrase is "God is dead."
hmm
That's like for Machiavelli, it's the ends justify the means.
Well, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like all I've ever heard is people just use it in the negative connotation. I've never heard any praise for it,
Well,
but
you have to
I don't know.
understand with these false worldviews, like no one is truly wrong about everything. Um, like that's impossible. But like you're always as far away from the truth as you can be. You're still gonna have something about your worldview that's true. So like when he's saying that, it's like the ends justify the means. I understand what he's getting at in the sense of like there are times where like you have to make like you're in between two decisions and they both suck. You know what I mean? It's kind of true in that sense.
Yeah, I
Like
don't know.
like
I just
doing the
been
thing
yeah.
that's less bad, I guess. Um
It's always been about interpretation. So that's why I've never liked the idea of specific kernels of information being censored or banned, or you can only take away one thing from someone. So I don't know. I'm interested in the concept of when people take the time to think about insane psychological like I don't even know the word because it's
what like writings or what?
no when people fuck man. Oh god, this is not
Hmm.
starting out great. Fucking New Year. No, I like the idea of people thinking of outside of the box concepts, and I just like ludicrous shit. I just
Like hit
everything
like
everyone says is just like versions of the
like
same
Hitler
thing.
or
I'm
something?
so well. I don't know. I've never actually read anything that Hitler wrote. I've never
Never read
read
Mein
Mein
Kampf.
Kampf. I've never translated the speeches, or not translated, watched translated versions of his speeches. I never really was ever interested in Hitler at all. The only thing that really fascinates me about the Nazis is their hunt for the occult and their love for it,
Well,
and
yeah,
all
I
these
mean, if you read Mein
artifacts.
Kampf, it actually is very telling because you can. It's actually like the what they believe and like their tenets and like their actual religion, because like Nazism is a religion.
Yeah,
It's an occult religion. Is actually unveiled because Mein Kampf is well, it means my struggle, right? And if I don't know if you're like how well versed you are in the tradition of like Western philosophy, like the biggest question that has been debated in philosophy for like thousands of years is like all the way back to the Greeks and then before the Greeks is the question of change, right? Like, are things constantly changing? Is it constant flux, or are things like just bound to change? So like there really isn't like nothing actually changes because it was meant to do. Like, can you see how like it's like a dilemma?
yeah,
Like
I could see how you could look at it that way. I could also see how whether you look at it as change or not, the fact that it's always going to be there. So you're trying to make sense out of the chaos of it, or what is the order to it?
right, and that's like historically been the dilemma. And so guys like like
Mm-hmm.
Hermetides, yeah, and like Hermeticism, like
Mm-hmm.
Hermeticism is basically like I mean there's a lot of other things to his teachings, but he basically taught that everything is like pure flux, right? And matter and atoms are like constantly, forming and shaping and evolving into like new things, right? And
Yeah,
so
because that was the precursor to alchemy. I think that's where a lot
right,
of
and
those
then
ideas come
alchemy,
from. Yeah. Okay.
exactly, and so
Yeah.
alchemy led to like like Darwinism and a lot of those kind of beliefs. but so and then also the big because it's change, but also like that is the question of like struggle. That's like the big thing that Marx was talking about. Like
Mm.
there's like the thesis, the antithesis, and then the synthesis. When because it's like the ruling class, the ruled, and then they fight, and then it just be like it bursts like a new system, and then that system rules over a new thing, and then the thing, and like the new thing fights with the current ruling class, and then they fight and they make a new thing, and so on and so forth, all until like the final stage of humanity, which is communism. Um, and so like it's basically what they're trying to do is not only figure out what is change and what is struggle, they're trying to like overcome all dialectical opposition, if that makes sense. Like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
you see, it's like it's the good and the bad. Well, you got to remember, this isn't my worldview. This is not what I believe. But in their view, in like Hermeticism, and it's like you have it's dualistic, if that makes sense. So you have good and evil, and like you need both of them to like transcend. Like Nietzsche kind of believes this too.
A
Um,
lot of people believe that. A
right,
lot of
and you
Eastern religions too.
exactly. You got and you have to remember that's not what I believe. But so
No, I
Mein
understand.
Kampf, I mean that means my struggle, right? And the whole thing he's talking about, the struggle of mankind, the struggle of this, the struggle of that, the struggle of the Germans, the struggle of the blah 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 blah, right? And so he's talking about the same thing as like Hermetides and Marx and Hegel. Hegel is really where all this stuff comes from in like I mean I wouldn't say modern like the modern West, but like we kind of think of it as sort of like pre-modern, which was like the 1500s to like the 1800s. So you got like the Renaissance. It's like post-Renaissance, but pre-Napoleonic era kind of stuff,
Mm.
right? And so Hegel and Descartes are really the two people that like a lot of like the Reddit stuff comes from that, and a lot of like the atrocities of like the 19th to 20th centuries come from that because of like their LARP. Well, Descartes' LARP is the whole like is everything an illusion, blah blah blah, and like skepticism, and then Hegel is about like dialectical opposition, right? And so Marx believed in dialectical materialism, which is that well obviously he believed that like everything is just like the world is purely material, right? There's no such thing as spirituality. There's nothing metaphysical, and right, and like the whole history of the world is just groups of people fighting over material goods, and Hitler believes in the same thing. And so, yeah, when he's saying Mein Kampf, and when you really read it, it's kind of unveiled like what it is that what he actually believes, right?
Did you actually read the whole book?
No, but I've read like excerpts from it, um, and like essays and whatnot.
I think what's interesting to me, well, not
I
interesting,
did
what's
read the
crazy to
Communist
me,
Manifesto though, because that's a lot shorter.
yeah. I don't think I ever read it. I was supposed to read it in school. I just didn't give a shit enough to do it. I just spark noted to make
Really,
a
you
point
weren't
from
like
it.
because a lot of people like just want to read it for the shits and giggles.
I don't know. I've never really gave a fuck. Like I don't like revolutionary things. I don't give a shit about systems of government. I'm not like my brain just doesn't work that way. It all is fucking nothing to me because none of it fucking works in my opinion. So it's like I don't want to read shit. But what I do like is I like philosophical ideas. I like metaphysical ideas. I like things where people describe complex emotions that is very hard to put into words. I like things in the abstract. I don't like reading things that people think unidentifiably is a fact or things that people just be like this is how you should live your life to the letter of whatever they're trying to read you. Like I don't know. I've never liked shit like that. So like Communist Manifesto,
But you have to
Mein
understand
Kampf,
that like those works aren't just like they're not really political. They actually are philosophical works. They're not.
no, I get it. You the two intertwine. What I'm saying is like ideologies tied to a political goal. I've never found those interesting.
I think that's very fascinating because you have to just remember. Well, also like when we might be like when we're critical of people that have these certain beliefs, like obviously they're wrong, but it's like it helps to understand like why they thought that. Like what was going on at the time, who was the people around them, what was the dominant thought process, and blah blah blah. Like what was the because like right now, obviously we think of things differently because of the information age, right? Like I can like I can look up what was going on in like 16th century Spain just like the click of a button right now and just read a whole article about it, right? Whereas like back in the day to
Yeah.
get these, you know, to get deep insights like historical or philosophical or mathematical or whatever it is, like you had to go to a university, you had to go to a library, right? And that's also part of the reason why colleges are kind of it's somewhat of an outdated concept,
I think it still is really difficult to find scholarly things though, or you know, I don't know. I guess I know I get the importance of it. I'm just saying I don't have an interest in that kind of like I don't care. I only the whole Nazism thing, like the origin of it, how they bastardized a bunch of Norse mythology and a bunch of other types of paganism, and also like the ancient belief that Aryans were the ones that had a over 12,000 year old civilization that was global. Like that shit is
it's
interesting to me because it's
yeah, it's
like
just so
from bits
bizarre.
and
Like
pieces.
what?
Yeah,
And also
it's
Hitler
like
was like a meth head, and you're like, what was this? Like,
it's very like L. Ron Hubbard in Origins. So like the whole like so the stuff like that is so like ridiculous. That's what interests me. But like the Communist Manifesto, I don't give a fuck. I don't care about the origin of man's desires and suffering and work and materialism and you know I don't give a fuck. Like it's like when you go to those parts of Europe, it's just gray and cold. I don't like there's no life to it. You know
yeah,
what I
like
mean? Like
like northern
and not to
Germany.
and also before I get fucking not to say that like there's more life and color and nuance in the Nazi shit. I just think it's more of a ridiculous concept to be interesting in its own right, not like anything that should be meritable. You know what I mean? Like
Well, you
it's
have to remember. I
the
mean, like
Communist
why
Manifesto is meant to be more
people,
serious.
right? But I do know what you're getting at. I mean, like, why do you think? Like, it's not that the Nazi stuff or whatever was like any more colorful. It's just like they grew up in these, it's like urban, like industry, like just it's just devoid of all like anything beautiful. So like, of course, that's going to produce like that. That is the fruit of bad philosophy. Is like
Yeah.
that kind of just I mean, unfortunately, like in our own country, like we have similar problems, right? Where like the average place in the country is just like it's just like gross, like I mean some of it's like fine, like it's functional, but it's not like it's either too utilitarian or it's just so like ugly. And of
Yeah,
course like
I
if
agree.
if everything outside is ugly, then what's inside is going to be ugly too.
Art reflects life, vice versa.
But yeah, I mean that's why it's very important. Um but yeah, I'm reading I got a good book for Christmas. It's called Esoteric Hollywood.
Hmm. That does sound interesting to me.
Yeah, so it's called Esoteric Hollywood: Sect, Cults, and Symbols in Film by Jay Dyer. I think some of our viewers might be um, familiar with him. He's an Orthodox Christian scholar, conspiracy theorist kind of dude, and has a lot of essays on theology, philosophy, conspiracies, and all that kind of stuff. It's interesting. Like, it's not like a lot of people they kind of go into it thinking that it's going to be about like gossip, like Hollywood gossip and like who screwed this person and whatever. And it's like that's not really what it's about. It's more so just the actual metaphysical sort of identity of Hollywood, right? How they are the new Babylon. They're almost like the new Mount Olympus. Does that make sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like it's just like the spiritual significance of Hollywood, um, and the actual like you do need to be reasonably philosophically literate to read it. You could probably enjoy it. But I know like there's a lot of people that would just be so confused when they're reading it. It's kind of like reading a book about like the 30 Years War or something like that.
Right.
um, whereas like in it,
Context is really important in that book.
yeah, because with the 30 Years War, you need to know about like all these different dynasties, like the history of like these successions and that successions, and then like this like certain religious leader here and that, and like all these different like what was going on in like the other part of the world, like Asia at the time. Like it's really loaded, but yeah, it just shows a lot of the um, like alchemical, hermetical, Masonic kind of symbolism, and also not just in the symbolism, but also just in the actual stories and the characters in the films themselves. Like talks a lot about Kubrick. There's a whole chapter about him, which was very, very insightful. I love that. Um, and then right now I'm in the chapter about like Spielberg and science fiction.
Do, I don't. Damn. I don't really know. I know a little bit about the Kubrick stuff. I don't know anything about Spielberg more than people just hate that he wrote in Star Wars compared to their beloved. I don't even know what the fuck it was before. Was it comics or stories beforehand? I don't even know.
No, Spielberg didn't do Star Wars. That was George Lucas.
Oh, George Lucas. Jesus Christ.
Yes,
Fuck.
Steven Spielberg is like
I'm all jumbled tonight.
he's like Indiana Jones or
Right, right, right.
Jurassic Park and all that stuff.
Jurassic Park.
Which it talks about that too. Um, yeah. Um, but like, are you familiar with like how would I put it? Well, okay, but basically, it just explains how Hollywood is just basically the new kind of shamanic force in our civilization. Like the screen is the means by which they project their, like dark worldviews onto, and it's basically just used by the CIA for mass mind control, right?
Yeah, I have heard that. I mean, the CIA has been known to do a bunch of fuckery, even with, declassified documents that no one's ever gotten accountability. So,
Yeah, no, they were just burned. I wonder how that happened. But
fucking God.
yeah, so Hollywood, and it's also connected to like like the music industry and whatnot, is used by these intelligence agencies to like create sort of it's for social engineering to get people to believe these certain things. Um, like there's a quote in it from some sort of scholar, I forgot who he was, explaining how there is nothing, like there is no other source that men draw from to get their worldview than film, right?
Yeah, it's highly sensational. You feel it when you leave a movie. I don't really feel this much anymore, but I remember when I was a kid and a little bit in high school, when you would leave a movie, you felt like a weird sense of pride, or you could, especially if you could relate to the character, you feel like once you got out of that movie, you could do anything you wanted to do. It was like a rush of adrenaline. It was really strange.
Well, yeah, because that's actually the message of a lot of the stuff they're promoting of like
Yeah.
like you can do anything if you put your mind to it.
It wasn't even that. It was more subtle than that. It was like if I was to watch a
Right.
movie,
Yeah.
like if it was an action movie, and if it was like a James Bond type thing, walking out of the movie theater and feeling like, man, I gotta go get on a suit and train.
Yeah, I got I got the sense of like watching like Indiana Jones or like adventure stuff. Like it's a
Yeah,
sense of like accomplishment. Like man, like we got
yeah.
to go
It's a
right out to
whimsical
the
sense of
sunset.
entitlement that we have for no reason.
Well, it's by design, but
Yeah, I know.
another interesting aspect that it talks about in the introduction is the like the idea of film as ritual and how we don't really think of film or theater at all for that matter as ritualistic when in reality it actually is, and that's how people have viewed it for almost the beginning of time. Like when you go back to the earliest forms of theater, like in like the Greeks and the Babylonians and whatnot, like they viewed it as ritual, and you had to, because like you're an actor, it's a very like it's not just this neutral kind of benign thing. Like you are, like conjuring up certain, spirits and gods to like and like they inhabit you, right? Like they inhabit your body, right? And like you like and you can have like another persona, like you are being I mean, it's intentional, but like they thought of it like you were being possessed, and like
You yeah
yeah,
yeah.
like to interpret these characters, you had to like call upon the gods to interpret them, if that makes sense. Like to get these energies and these sort of you see where I'm getting at.
Yeah, and I see how these days it's more of just, it's just like very lukewarm, simple minded type of philosophies that are just watered down and told the same variations of over and over again as just a propaganda tool from the government. Like
Right, but you
it's
see
very
how
it's
the
very
but you see how like you can't get around that stuff, right? And it's still there. Like the film is ritual, right?
I don't think the idea of it being a ritual is necessarily a bad thing. It just depends on what you're being shown.
Yeah, no,
Like
I'm
if
not saying it's good or bad either. It's just the point that he's making is just the actual like spiritual significance of it and how people don't really think about that.
Yeah, no, and I think it's a good point. I need to read that book. It seems that it was interesting. I know a little bit about weird Hollywood history. The one that's hilarious to me is, you know who Aleister Crowley is, right?
Oh yeah, the book talks about that quite a bit. And like
Did it mention the book how when he went to Hollywood, he described their residents as a cinema crowd of cocaine crazed sexual lunatics?
oh, well no, you didn't say that, but I'm not surprised that you
Coming,
said that. Um
well, coming from him of all people. Have you ever read that motherfucker's erotica?
no, but I honestly probably should. He was considered the evilest
Uh,
man alive, which he probably was. I mean, he was
he was just a lunatic.
abhorrent.
He was the one that was a fucking lunatic. The dude was just crazy. Like he was just a fucking homeless. He just talked like a homeless person.
No, but dude, like he committed like necrophilia and like pedophilia and stuff. Like he was an evil, evil man.
Did he
Um,
actually? I can't remember. It's been a while since I've read about him. Did he actually kill the people that he did it with, or did he just find them?
I don't know, but either way, that's not good.
The dude was
um,
fucked up in the head, no doubt. But I don't know how much
yeah,
inherent harm he caused to other people. Unlike
quite a
the
lot
followers
with
of his work
his.
being a fucking just insanely stupid.
Well, do you believe that these things are real or no?
I
Because I
believe if you
do, and
believe
they're
that they're real, I believe if you have enough psychological hold off of someone that believes these kind of things, I think they become real. I don't know how objectively real they are. It's not like I go exploring that type. When I look at this, all the occult stuff or the Gnostic stuff, it's really just because it piques my interest. And I don't know, I just like alternative points of view on history because you never know if it's true or not. You never know who even wrote the damn thing in the first place. So like the fact that it's a mystery is kind of exciting to me too. It could be all bullshit. It doesn't matter. It just is creative in the way that it was written. So like if the entire of all the entire philosophies are bullshit and they're just made up and they're not true compared to the ultimate truth, it's very creative the way that it's written. So it just interests me. But I don't know. I don't like the idea that you just have to take everyone's ideas at face value because if you do that, then yeah, you're susceptible to believe anything, and then it will become real for your life, and it'll probably become super damaging to your life.
well, right, but that's kind of the point where it's like there are certain things that it's like, well, okay, you take them to face value, and then the further you go down the rabbit hole, it actually leads to like destruction for yourself and those around you. But then there's like other views that do the opposite, right? So like, can you see that like some like ideas and worldviews, so to speak, are better than others?
Yes, I don't know, but I don't think there's a blanket like this idea is wrong, this idea is good. It depends on how it's being applied. It's depending on how vague or how specific it is, how it's being interpreted. Like I don't know. I don't look at one idea as a sole factor. I just think of like I'm trying to think. I'm really
Yeah,
shooting
but
myself in the
that
foot
like
trying to think of
assumes
an
that you
example.
know
But
what the good is, and like
You don't. Well, sometimes you don't know though. Like sometimes it's difficult
Well,
to
right, but
discern
so then you can't give an account for what the good is. So like, then why does it matter in your worldview, at
because it's
least?
all trial and error. You got to figure it out. You got to figure out the shit that doesn't work and the other
Yeah, but how do
stuff
you
that
know that
does.
it does or doesn't?
Well, you have to have a certain amount of self awareness. Like some people don't realize that they're damaging themselves or hurting others. It has to take
Well,
an
even
outside
so, I mean,
perspective.
some people that do that think that that's okay. Like there are some, like some people like believe, like, and even some Far Eastern religions do believe in like self destruction. That like we're meant to like die. Like we're meant to actually just like self immolate and whatnot. So like, how do you know?
And what though? What? Who says that?
Like certain like sects of Buddhism believe in that, and I mean like nihilists believe in this too. Like if they actually want to take the next step and be theologically consistent, like they will just kill themselves because that's just the logical conclusion of nothing means anything. So why live?
I
Right.
get it from the nihilist point of view, but I've never heard that from a Buddhist perspective. I mean,
Well, you got to remember,
they're
there's
really
like,
more focused on enlightenment and not destruction. They're more
well,
focused on
for
harmony.
well, no, for some of them, enlightenment is just lighting themselves on fire because you have to reject all of the world.
I think those are like the snake handlers of the Buddhism sect.
Well, I mean, it's all snake oil because it's not true. So how do you know which
well,
one is and which
because
one isn't?
because I'm not looking at it as a point of objective truth. I'm looking at it as a point of interest, and some of it can be beneficial to your life. Anything can be beneficial to your life if you interpret it that way. But like I said before, if you don't have the self awareness to realize what is actually helpful to you and what isn't, then yeah, you probably shouldn't go around reading other different types of ideas that get motivated. You know what I mean? You try to look within yourself. I don't know. I don't have that type of disposition. So like I don't read something and become self destructive because of it. You know what I mean? Like that's not how I operate.
I understand, but the thing in question is just like you said, like it benefits or isn't it health? It's healthy or unhealthy. Like, what is the actual like that assumes that you know what the good is. Like it presupposes it. I'm asking you, like, what is your account of the good, and how
Well,
do you
you
know
you
that?
just apply it. You can apply it to your life. You can have an actual objective goal that you're able to reach by looking at a different type of philosophy or ideology or whatever have you. Like it's all a mental game. So whatever thing you want to achieve, you have to think about it or get over something or cope with something to get there. If you think you're going to reach your goal from some divine intervention, and that's how you reach it because you believed it and you're so confident in it and it didn't have a negative effect on your life, that is your truth. You know what I mean? Like I'm not making
Right,
a
but
blanket statement for what is good and bad, but like if it's beneficial to your life, whatever the process is that helped you get there is that.
well, I mean, Hitler thought he was benefiting his life and everyone else's life by killing the Jews and forthing
Yeah, but
Nazis. So how do you?
objectively it wasn't.
Well, by what standard? How do you know it's objective? Like, who's to say that he's wrong?
Well, it's really majority of people. The majority of people thought he was wrong. So if there could be a scenario where more people thought Hitler was right than he was wrong, and I don't know how much of the German people were so brainwashed because like a lot of them actually believed it or they were just scared to speak out against it. I don't know what that percentage is.
Yeah,
I
but
don't I don't fucking remember.
how many people believe in or don't believe in something has nothing to do with whether or not something's true.
No, I get it, but you're saying like what metric are you supposed to judge on? Because if you think it's beneficial, but like a multitude of people around you don't, which one do you listen to?
Right.
That's what I'm.
That's what like I'm. I mean, I have my account for the good, but I'm just curious to know like what is like how do you know what like objective good is? Well, I mean, I assume you do believe in objective good, but I mean that's another question. Like, do you?
I mean, I guess so. I don't know. Like, I guess it depends on the topic. So, like, give me a specific topic or a specific thing. Like, whether is it murder, is it success? Like, what is the actual topic?
I'm talking about. I mean, everything.
No, I know, but it's hard to talk about everything. You know what I mean? It's hard. What is the objective good of everything? I don't know. That could take. Humanity is thousands of years old, and we still haven't figured that out. You know what I mean? Like,
No, but what is your definition of the good?
my definition would be because I feel like I have enough self awareness to know what's actually beneficial to me. So, like, if it's consuming things, food and drink, that is good for me as opposed to things that aren't. So, like, the objective good is not drinking a bunch of alcohol and not smoking a bunch of cigarettes or doing other illicit substances, trying to exercise more. The objective good is that I get to live longer, I live a happier, healthier life, and I'm also not hurting other people around me. I'm not wasting a ton of money. So
But why
it's
is
like
that?
the objective.
Why is that better than being unhealthy, harming other people, and living shorter? Like, why is that better?
I don't know. I guess that is just like the way that I operate as like my own moral compass. I believe that it is good. I don't have a reason for it. It just
Well, then
feels
that's.
good.
I
And
mean, then
there's a
that's
lot of things that feel
arbitrary.
good that can be damaging. Yeah, it is arbitrary, but who cares?
Well,
It's
okay,
not
so
an
then
outlandish position.
it. I mean, so you just admit that it's all bullshit.
Yeah, it's that's what I'm saying. It's all a mind game. It's all your
Well,
interpretation
so
and what it
then,
does to enhance your life.
like, why would anyone listen to what you have to say? It
They
doesn't
don't
make any
have to. I don't care.
sense.
Like, no, because that's what you're not understanding. I'm not. I don't care. Like,
No, I
people don't have to
understand what
listen
you're
to me as a
saying. I'm
philosophy.
just pointing out, like, that this is fallacious and doesn't make any sense.
We operate morality on our own human terms, and we bend that every single day. We do things that I don't know, like we just try to justify everything we do, or like we are in denial of everything we do. We can't sit here and say there is one objective truth about everything because like no one will agree on it. So like if the entire world believed that murder was fine and it was justified all of the time, and there's only a couple people that didn't believe that, then that would be their objective truth. You know what I mean? Like it's
No,
just
but
it doesn't
that
matter
doesn't
what it
matter
is.
how many people believe in or don't believe in. It's just
It does because
that which
that's the
is.
whole precipice.
No,
That's
it's
the whole
not.
entire yes. Because if okay, so
No,
if
you
you believe in
can't.
something that
No.
everyone else thought was bad, what was your metric? Like if you said what's the metric for good and bad, then there is none because it's depending on how many people believe in that fucking thing.
No, it's
I
not.
get
It's
the you.
dependent. No, it's dependent on God and His church and the scriptures. That's the three things that you need. I know.
No,
I
I
know
get it.
you don't agree with that, but that's the metric you use. I mean, like if you actually like look in the scriptures, like I think it was either like Ezekiel or Isaiah, like they were the last, like the whole Holy Land had just gone to decadence. Like no one was keeping the commandments. No one was like no one was doing anything good, right? And so the last good man on earth, what in the Holy Land at that time was either as Isaiah or Ezekiel. I can't remember, right? So like I mean, he was just the one man left, and he knew what was right, you know. I mean, and also you have to remember, like God also just inscribes it in our hearts, right? Like you can kind of, I mean, there are people that would just deny this, but like people have like it is partly emotional. You know, I guess you can agree with that respect.
It's very emotional. And
Right,
it's
but
different for
it's
different people how emotional it is. That's why everyone fights about it, and there's always moral
well,
gray
that's
area.
part of it,
But no,
like I
I
said,
get
because he
that.
wrote it, like he inscribed morality into our hearts, but you know what is good because God tells us, and he is good. Like God is the good. That's why he gets to tell us what is good and what isn't.
But you have to admit that you hit a wall philosophically with that idea because like I understand the premise of like you get your morality from the Bible and the commandments and like you could argue
Well, it's
philosophically
not
about what something is right
exclusively
or wrong all
from
day.
that, but yes,
No,
that's
I
part
get
of
it.
it.
I'm trying to simplify it.
Because you
So
have to
like
remember,
for
I'm not
example,
a
murder.
Protestant, so like I don't. It's not solely from the Bible. It's the Bible and the church.
Okay, so one of the instances in the commandments is murder, right?
Right.
So most people, like if you believe in God and you believe that your morality comes from God and the church, that's one that's bad. And then for people that don't believe it, a lot of people that don't believe in God still believe that murder is wrong unless it's like self-defense or something that's reasonable, right?
That's not murder though.
Um,
Like murder is a very specific action.
okay, so murder in the sense, okay, so not taking just death out, murder in the sense that you premeditatedly went out to kill someone for no reason, right? So
Yeah.
just
So
blank
so
definition of
murder
murder.
murder is different than just mere killing. Mere killing
No, I
is
understand.
not like inherently evil, but what is inherently evil is murder, which is the intentional destruction of an innocent human life. That is what murder is.
Okay, great. So just in the context of murder, most people that I don't know if that number gets smaller every year, but most people that don't believe in a God, a lot of those guys believe that murder is wrong, and then the people that do believe in a God also believe that murder is wrong. But the difference is the only reason why murder is wrong is because God says it's wrong. Like, did he ever go into detail, or do you ever know why he said that murder is wrong? Like, what was the reason that murder is a sin?
Well, yes, because he is the author of life, and one obviously, so he's the author of life, and so he created every one of us, and he loves every one of us, and that's where, and because with the biblical worldview and the Christian worldview, where God created all of us in His image and likeness, that's where the idea of dignity makes sense. Because in worldviews, I'm not saying you believe this, but like in worldviews where everything is just chaos and like there's no inherent meaning, then like and we're just bags of meat, then of course I could just kill you because you're just a bag of meat. Who cares what a bag of meat thinks? But in my
Well, no,
worldview, we're not mere bags of meat.
my question is like, so like basically because he is the only one that, because he's the creator and divine, he's the only one that has the authority to kill someone. So like it's not because of the pain that it causes, because like you don't have the right to kill someone because you're not God. Like that's what I'm saying. Like what is the reason why you can't do it? Is that's what I'm interested in. I don't actually know.
Well, like I said, because he created each and every one of us through his like with his image and likeness, like it's just in the sense that you can't disrespect like any other form of God's creation, right? Like God created that person and He loves that person just as much as you do, and so you do not have the right to take away his life for no reason.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. So it's just you don't have the authority to do it,
I mean
essentially.
that's part of it, yeah.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. So the difference in the philosophical ideas is because of that. That's only so far as it goes. Where if you were to look at it from a secular worldview, then it's just like because it causes inherent pain. There's no like
Yeah,
reason
but
for
that
it.
doesn't give an account for like why that's bad. Like that's just a
Well, neither
statement of
that.
what is. Like you can't get an ought from an is.
Yeah, but okay. So let's
Well, it
pretend for
causes inherent
hypothetical sake.
pain, okay, but some people might enjoy that. So like why does that doesn't really matter.
It,
Can
how
you
do I
can you
explain it?
see how
Like
that doesn't like that doesn't answer the question either?
no, my whole entire point is that like they both hit a wall. Like
But it
like you
doesn't though
can.
because my worldview gives the account for dignity and how that I mean that's
No,
it only
it,
makes
all it
sense
says
in
is you
this
don't have the
worldview.
authority to do it because you're not God. That doesn't really.
No, that's
That's kind
not.
of like a.
No, that's not what it's saying, Jason. It's not saying you don't have the authority to do it because you're not God. It's that that person was God's creation and He made him or her in His image and likeness just as much as you do, right? And
But God's
so,
the only one that's allowed to kill people. So the fact that you are stepping on God's toes because you're killing one of His creations that you don't have the authority to kill, because God's the only one that is allowed and able to do that. He is the authority figure of life and death. That's my point. Like
well, yeah,
it
only
doesn't
only
matter.
He has the power over life and death, if that makes sense.
That is my thing. You do not have the authority to kill one of God's creations because you are not Him. He is the only one that is able to do it. That's the wall that it hits. It's not a question of morality. It's because like you are not allowed to do this because you are not me, is what it
Well,
translates to.
right, and but it still is a question of morality because it's explaining why it's wrong.
But it doesn't explain it that well. Like to
Yeah,
me, that's not a good enough
well, yeah,
answer
it
to say why you
does.
can't kill it because because I created something else, you can't kill it because you know what I mean. Like it's to me, it's not a good enough explanation, and neither is like
No, but can you see
the other
how
way where it's like it causes inherent pain.
because something is created by God, it has dignity and how that makes sense.
Well, who gives a shit about dignity? Like that's what I'm saying. Like if people like the inherent pain of of death or murder, then why would they even give a fuck about dignity?
All right, and that's why that's still wrong in this worldview. Like it's still like that's why like self mutilation is not allowed either. Like we don't own our bodies, if that makes sense.
No, I understand the premise of it. What I'm saying is that like it's neither like there's no to me there's no one good explanation other than like if someone kills your family or someone that you love, you don't really think about it like coming from like a perspective like, oh, this person killed my wife, he can't do that because he killed one of God's creations. Like you're not thinking about it like that. It's a totally like chemical emotional response. You're blinding with rage. You're not even thinking about the religious connotation to it. You know what I'm saying? It's a very primal response.
But like,
So
what are
like,
you saying though?
like what
That
I'm
that
saying
has
is like
just because
it's
it's a primal response or it's chemical or not chemical or whatever. That has nothing to do with whether or not it's right or wrong.
what other thing has that like heavy of a response where it's like you feel like your world has been shattered, and like, and the only thing that can explain that because it's bad is because that person didn't have the authority to do it. Well, let's pretend that they did, because that's the one thing that's always been weird to
No,
me
but
is that
like
like when
I think you're just kind of missing the point. Like you're kind of harping on this whole, well, it's just having the authority or not. It's like, no, God is the authority. It's not just he
that's what my
happens to
point is.
have the authority. It's kind of like this. It's not just he happens to be the good. It's like he is good. Like he is
That's
the
what I'm saying.
good.
He is the authority on good, and if you go against it, that's the reason why it's bad, as opposed to the actual act itself. It feels like murder is not really that bad, only because you broke a law or you because you broke a commandment. But if it wasn't a commandment, I feel like most people were really gonna give a shit.
Well,
But
there's
they
lots
would
of
because
things
it's
in
such
the
a heavy
there's
response.
lots
Like
of things
it's
that aren't in the commandments that are still bad and you can't do them, right?
I know, but what I'm saying is that it's such an unforgivable thing that you don't really need to have it be explained to you. Like you can be a child and have no sense of,
But like,
philosophy, no
what is the
sense of
point you're
direction.
making though?
My point is that like for such a complex like rash response, just like the amount of trauma physically that it causes you, like to just have it be simply explained is the reason why this is bad is because God created everyone with dignity and you can't kill it. You know what I mean? Like it's such a very simple, it's a simple reason to not do it for a very complex emotional response. Like it doesn't answer it to me. You know what I mean? Like
But
like
like, I still don't
mur-
understand what is it about the question that you still like that still hasn't been answered to you. Like, what is
it
some
feels like
aspect of it that is kind of missing?
it's too like, I feel like it's too simple. Like it's not a good enough reason to not kill someone. Like based on the logic, like if everyone was created with
No, it's
dignity
murder
and it's
someone, not. You gotta remember, mere killing is different than murder.
murdered,
Like
yes,
killing
premeditated murder
someone,
for no reason.
like killing someone in self-defense is very different because you are trying to protect another person, right?
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying like if you like if you're in your house and someone broke in and just killed your parents just because they wanted to rob your TV, like that, for something like that. You know what I mean? Like it's such a blatant like attack on you, like physically, spiritually, mentally, like everything, and just having a simple response being in like that. I don't know. It's just it's never it's
But like, no, I see what you're saying. But like, what is it about? I mean, like that's still in my worldview too. I was just trying to give you
I don't
the
know.
most like sort of philosophical grounding for why it is the case.
I guess my biggest problem with it is because you're making the like the argument when people try to explain something philosophically, like, well, what is right and wrong, what is objective good, what is evil, you can't answer that out of the context of Christianity. But like it doesn't go really into depth about that. I feel like more things go into depth about complex emotions and complex morality than just because it says so from the church or from the Bible. Like I feel like
That's not
it's not enough to
no,
explain
that's
it.
not what I'm saying, Jason. I gave you my answer to the best of my knowledge. If you want to read more about the subject, I mean, there's been tons of encyclicals and so on and so forth written about this over 2000, if not more than that, years. I'm just giving you the answer to the best of my knowledge, right? I'm not like I'm not a cleric, right? I'm not I'm not a canon lawyer, right?
Well, I would ask that question to whoever is, and if I ever get a chance, because I'm really like I'm not. If you don't know, you don't know. I'm just really curious because like from what I've grown up with and from what I've seen, like it just kind of stops, and people kind of say the same thing, like, well, it's just the way it's supposed to be. And it's just like, well, why?
Well,
And this is not even like me trying to be like contradictory. Like that was my thing, is like I've always wondered the reasons why God did things. Like I think we were talking about this last time. Like he does very specific things. I've always been really curious as to why it has to be done that way.
like
Um,
what specific, like when it comes to like the plagues and all that stuff?
Yeah, like stuff like that, or like like when we were talking about this when we watched the King of Egypt,
Oh
like the
yeah, yeah.
Moses story, where they had to spray like lamb's blood on the door. Like, why do they have to do that specific? You know what I mean? Like, I've always been very curious about why things had
Well,
to
you got
go
to
down
remember
the
the
way they
lamb
did.
is the symbol for Christ, right? Lamb is the like Christ is the Lamb of God, so it's part of like the like the overarching plan for mankind, right?
No, I get the symbolism, but my point is just like, why does God want to do things in very riddled, specific ways? You know what I mean? Like, why? Like, I get like, why is that why is the lamb the symbol? Like, what? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's very specific things that seem to be very like
That's a fair
perfectly
Yeah, that's a fair
You know what I mean?
question,
Like,
but like
it's not
how
a
does
knock
that
against it. I've always just
No,
been
and
very curious about
I
why.
I can see what you're saying, but does that like I can see what you're saying, but does that help you believe or not believe, or you just that's not really what you're getting at? Like
No,
that's not like
I get.
mm,
If I were to level with you, like I would have to, you know what I mean? Like I'd have to ask God the question himself. You know what I mean? Like it's not something a human I think can answer to me. You know what I mean? Like I just think I have such a yearning for things not of this world or like most things that people can explain to me. So every time someone explains to me why I can and can't do something, you kind of play that game. It's just like, well, who does this really hurt, or what does it even mean to do this? Or like if enough people believe this anyway, then no one would complain about it. Like I don't know. Like I don't know. I've never been satisfied with any answer I've ever been given about life or just the complexities of it. So I feel like I'd have to get that information from a higher power, to be honest with you.
well, I mean, do you want to talk to my priest about it? He helped out one of my friends actually who was in a similar dilemma, and my friend's actually converting to Catholicism now.
I mean, it's not something I'm struggling with. It's just something more that I'm like
Well, if you're
curious
curious,
about
well,
because I.
sure, if you're curious, that's just as valid to want to know. And
No, I'll talk to anyone. It doesn't matter to me.
yeah, if you want to, you could come to mass and we could ask him. But I mean, what I was trying to really explain to you is the concept of dignity, and that's why it's wrong to murder another person, and dignity makes sense in the providential Christian worldview that God created all of us through His image and likeness, right?
Yeah, and to be clear, I think there's a very simple concept that makes sense. Like the concept of respect and dignity like goes heavy with me. So like I don't try to go out of my way to do things to hurt people or like rob them of their dignity unless it's for like a joke that went too far. You know what I mean? Like it's not my goal.
But
So
also,
it's
can
like
you
the
see?
concept of
Yeah,
respect and dignity that goes further than just trying to murder someone. I just think it's too like
right. And
I
respect
don't
and
know. It's
dignity. It makes sense why we should respect and dignify people in a Christian worldview, right? But without that, like you don't really have a reason to. I mean, like if we're just bags of meat and we just came here by a random chance, then what's stopping me from killing 6 million Jews? You know?
Well, I mean, I don't have that worldview, like, but I don't view it that way. Like, I don't feel like, oh, because nothing matters, I can do whatever I want.
I'm
I
not
don't view
saying you
things
believe
that
that,
way.
but
No, but what I'm saying is like, so then where do I lie? Because like, I don't believe in both worldviews of the concept of dignity. I just think it's just something you should do because it feels right, and the concept of feeling right doesn't mean anything. It's just
well,
like
right. So what I was just
me.
trying to say is like just well, it just feels right. I mean, then like if you just say it just is, then I can just say God just is, right? Like
You can. I'm just saying
right, but
what
then
I'm
that's
saying is like
arbitrary. So like
I would need
that's
something like to explain it to me like that. Like I'd have to have God explain it to me. No, you know what I mean. Like no human could explain to me why I need to dignify people. You know what I mean? Like
right, but
why objectively should I do that from the Christian worldview or just because it's the nice thing to do? I don't fucking know. You know?
right, but so you need God to, but so you need God to explain it to you. But like, in what way? Like, what does that mean to you?
Like I really want to know the reason why. Like I don't know. I just think about it. Like why? Because the only thing that they can explain to me is because like well because God created everyone in His image and then they deserve the dignity and respect, right?
Right, and that makes
Is that where
sense.
that stops?
Well, I mean, there's more
Right.
to
It
it
makes
than
sense.
that.
It's a simple. That's
Well,
my
also you
point.
have
It's
to
a simple
remember God
concept.
like has a plan for everyone, right? And you can't like He's the author of life. You can't like that's not your business to just And it's also like have you ever thought about? I'll frame it this way: like it's unnatural, right?
It feels unnatural.
Right,
Well,
exactly. Like
I would say in
murder
most
is
instances, I guess it would.
murder is unnatural because we're not order like because nature is like what we are ordered to do, like naturally, right? So like we are ordered to know, love, and serve God and to reproduce, right? And have fellowship, right? Those three things, like that's what our nature is, right? And so if you do something to violate that, then that is unnatural, right? Like to murder your fellow man, like Cain and Abel, right? I mean, that's the literally the classic example of murder.
Yeah, but you have to admit that for most people on the planet with different worldviews and religions, like that, it's a very similar response. Like it feels unnatural to most people.
Right,
Like
but that has
it doesn't
nothing to
matter what they
do with
believe.
what's like what I believe or don't believe or how I'm right or wrong. I'm just explaining like I'm just explaining to you worldview, right? And how it's based like I'll frame it this way. Like so every worldview and everyone has a worldview, whether you realize it or not, consists of three things. It consists of a metaphysics, an epistemology, and an ethics, right? So a metaphysics that you have is the claim that you make about reality. Okay. And then the epistemology is how you justify that claim, right? How do you know that? And then
Hmm.
the third branch is ethics, right? So given this statement I make about reality, or given the nature of reality and how I know that, this is how we should live our lives, right? This is what we ought to do, right? And then so in my worldview, like I have, my metaphysics is that is providence, right? I believe that God created the world, right? And like you can justify that by demonstrating like okay, so there are these things called transcendental categories, right? The author of the Esoteric Hollywood actually explained this very well. I'll probably just link the video in the description. So there are these things called transcendental categories. And what that means is that they are things that you can find in the world that aren't the immediate subject of empirical investigation. And empirical investigation, which is what like science uses, empirical investigation just means, um, you know, investigation through your senses, right? So an example of something that is a
Can you
transcendental
call that empirical then?
what?
If it's just a through your senses, can you like legitimately call that empirical?
That's what empiricism is. It means you can,
Is it?
yes, it means you can learn about the entire world through your sense experience. Yes.
I thought it was quantitative. Is that not what empirical means? Oh, Jesus Christ, it's backward. Yeah, you're right. Never mind.
Yeah.
I was thinking of yeah, never mind.
Yeah, so empiricism means like you can just use your senses to discover everything about the world, right?
Okay, yeah,
But
yeah.
there's certain things in the world, like there's problems you run into because there's certain things in the world that cannot be empirically verified. Why? Because they are constant, invariant, and immaterial, right?
Yeah.
And so an example of things that are constant, immaterial, and invariant are things like time, right? You can't empirically verify that there was a past. I mean, really think about that. You can't
Yeah, it's
truly,
true.
yeah, you can't truly know that there was a past, that this thing was this case in the past, like, which is another thing, identity over time, right? So I know that, okay, you, Jason, you're a person, right? And you have a past, but I have no way of empirically verifying that, right? And that's another thing, the self. You have no way of empirically verifying that you are a self or I am a self. Another thing is language. You have to assume, and that's the thing, like you can't empirically verify it. So that's what I'm saying is you have to just assume it for the possibility of knowledge, right? And so another thing,
Hmm.
language, like there's no real way of knowing that, like what I'm saying. make sense, right? Like you have to assume like think of it this way, with all of these categories I've given to you, in order for you to have any possibility of knowledge, you have to assume that we are both selves with pasts that, speak something that is mutually intelligible, and also that it makes sense at all, right? That it's matching up to an ontological reality, right? And that our identity is the same over time. Like that I can know, okay, you Jason are a self that speaks English, which makes sense, is like and is a real thing, and you have identity over time, so that's how I know, like, okay, like you are constant, invariant, and immaterial, like yourself, right? And I know that you 5 seconds from now is you from 5 seconds before, right?
Yeah.
And so the ultimate argument that's being made is, given the reality of transcendental categories that I've like demonstrated to you, so the existence of constant, invariant, immaterial, universal concepts necessitates the existence of a constant, invariant, immaterial, and universal being to sustain all of these things and ground it. Does that make
I
sense?
don't know. I think that's a big jump to connect those two like that.
Well, I mean, if not that, then like, what are you left with? Like, not.
That's my point. Like, I don't think I think it's hard to empirically prove anything like that because you could even make the
No, but I'm
argument
not.
because
No, 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 no. I'm not empirically verifying this. Like, it's a very specific philosophical argument I'm making,
right.
and so you justify this thing like epistemology, which is the second aspect of worldview. You do that by you justify it, and that means you demonstrate the impossibility of the contrary, right? And so if you try to prove that there is no such thing as transcendental categories, then that leads you to even like crazier absurdities, right?
I honestly think you could go all day trying to prove things that aren't actually there are there that you have no idea that you don't experience yourself. Like you could literally do that all day to no effect.
Right,
Like
but
I
can you see how that there's pre scientific questions, not just to doing science, but also for the possibility of knowledge at all?
well, I think it's a human. I mean, it's innate human curiosity to try to be able to prove things based off like whether it's empirically or quantitatively. Like I don't know.
Well, I'm not using
I
either one of those systems. I'm showing how mere empiricism can't be used to explain the possibility of knowledge. That's something like basically like I'm.
but
What were you saying?
I don't know, dude. That's do you operate on a daily system like that though? Because like literally your entire life experience is empirical.
Well, no, I mean, because then you can't empirically verify that. So, like, how would you know?
Well, how do you? What do you just walk around all day just as a,
No,
a
I'm not.
like?
I'm not saying that it's beyond the senses. That's not what it is. It's just that there's pre questions to these things in order to truly be able to justify them. Have a good reason to believe in them. Does that make sense?
If that's the case, I don't think there's a good system to prove anything. Then, like, there is no good system. No one should believe anything because there's no way to actually prove anything. Like, I don't know. It just seems like you just are stuck in a loop.
Well, so then if no one should believe anything, then I shouldn't believe what you're saying right now. So then it's just, I mean, that's just self refuting, and that doesn't make any sense.
It's what the world feels like. And no system has ever been able to do that well. Everyone's always disagreed with everything, and everyone's always jumped around. So like that's what I'm saying. I don't think there is one.
People disagreeing
I think
or
the world is
agreeing
just
has
chaos, dude.
no, that doesn't make any sense, because if the world is just chaos, then in order for you to come to the conclusion that it is chaos requires that there is something orderly by which you come to know that.
Yeah, I do, and it's not impaired, and I'm not opposing on anyone else. Like I guess I have my own version of what would be orderly and what would be chaos, and other people will be different for other people. That to me is its own version of just chaos because there is I don't think there is one thing. That's my point. I don't know. And every time someone's tried to explain to me, I don't think it's a good enough answer to justify it. I don't think there is that type of order in the world. I think we just place our human biases into a system and get enough people to believe it, and that is what our society is, and that is what our ethics are.
No, but that does
Mine, and that's always counterbalanced with our emotional responses to things that
no,
usually
but that doesn't
are.
make any sense because if this is just grounded in human minds, then like that runs into other problems. Like our minds aren't, or like our minds are finite, right? And there's also the
Yeah,
problem of distinction, right? My mind is not your mind, right?
right.
So this has nothing to do with like a question of what people believe or how many people believe in this or all that stuff. Like it's a very specific philosophical argument that I'm making.
No, I understand the
Like, can
argument
you
that you're making. I'm just
understand
saying
the
it.
idea that if there is no God, then like you can't even do math, right? You can't do logic. Like the same system, like that, like if you cut off God, that also like which is constant, immaterial, invariant, that cuts off the door to other constant, invariant, immaterial things like logic or math, right?
I mean, I feel like a lot of people that are really good at math cut off gods. I don't know if that's
I'm not saying in
universally
a
true.
question of you don't do them. It's just that like you don't have a justification to believe in it. Does that make sense?
Well, they're not. It's not even in the question. Like, there's no reason for them to think it or bring it up.
Well,
Like,
there
I
is.
don't think
There
God
is,
can be disproven or proven
like I
mathematically
said,
or not.
there's
I don't think we
pre
have that
like
capability.
like I was saying. Well, and then I'm not using mathematics to prove or disprove it. Well, I mean, you can prove it in the sense that like these numbers have to be grounded in divine mind, right? They have to be matching up to something. Because if not, then it doesn't mean anything.
I don't know.
Because, like I said, they're constant, invariant, and immaterial.
So if they're constant, invariant, and immaterial, if you can't physically prove that, like, I don't know, like what, there is no metric. Then you can make up
No,
the
that's what I'm
fucking
saying.
metric.
God is the metric. Like the transcendental argument that I'm making right now is the argument that he is the reason that we have the possibility of knowledge at all, right? And because God has set up the world to be regular, right? There's order. That's how you can do math and science. Like you can pick out these numbers and you can do these equations because it's constantly being sustained at every moment by God. And there's all like that's how you can pick out, like you can observe, like okay, in nature, okay, this is how like this is how photosynthesis works, or this is how like biodegradation works, or something like that.
But people have made that argument about the universe too, and also like the
What
fact of time being abstract. Like people varied the universe
does that
as a
mean?
constant. Like the idea of I don't know too much about, or
No, but I'm
not too
not.
much know
But
fuck anything at all about quantum physics, but like it's either you can either explain everything through universal truths that can be observed through numbers. So it's like that is your constant. Like we're working on very specific systems of laws that you
well,
can,
what I'm saying is
you
you need
know,
to give an account for those laws. Like
what do you mean give an account?
like explain why you have a good reason to believe in those things because they're not like you can't just have them as a given, right?
No, you have to be quantitatively proved. And so if you're saying like you can't have that type of math without the existence of God, well, it's like, well, if it's still math that's observable in the universe or observable on Earth, and like, what more do you need to prove that it's
Well, that
real?
you have to. I mean, that gets into the problem of mere sensory experience, which is like you have to
We're all
believe that
sensory experience.
no.
We every
What I'm saying is you have to believe that what you are experiencing through your senses is actually mapping up to an ontological reality, right? You have to
and they
believe.
do,
And how?
and
No,
some of
but
them do.
how do you know that? How do you know that your
What
senses aren't deceiving you? Think about that. How do you know that?
that is hard to know, but like let's say
Well, what I'm
I guess like
saying
if you're
is, in
using
my worldview, it makes sense why what you experience through your senses is real is because of providence, right? Think of it like this: all of science is predicated on the principle of induction. And what that is the idea that things will have identity over time, right? And so if you don't have a good reason to believe that or to justify why that is the case, the principle of induction, then all of science is just like it's done. You can't do it because you don't have a reason to believe that the sun will set tomorrow. Why would you believe that the sun will set tomorrow?
I don't know. I don't know cosmic shit. I don't know math like that. I don't have a. If someone told me that it was going to, no matter what, from a religious reason, if someone told me scientifically, like, I don't know.
But can you see how this makes sense in a providential worldview where God has set things up to be regular and you have identity over time? And that's how you can, I mean, you can have your senses, which are also being sustained, right? And you can pick these things out and it's all ordered. That's, I mean, science is an ordered body of knowledge. And if everything is just chaos, then you can't do science.
I don't mean chaos, like, I mean, like, I mean, some people think it's organized chaos and, like, there's things you can actually observe and all of that, and there's patterns, and obviously there's symmetry in life. I more mean chaos and,
Like
like, humanity.
struggle, I guess.
Struggle, triumph, pain, pleasure, whatever. It all seems fucking random and unbeneficial. Or non beneficial, whatever the fucking word is. But I don't know. I don't know enough about mathematics to cosmically prove whatever, and I don't have any sensory experience outside of this planet. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't know. I just feel like the things that control our daily life on Earth and the emotions that we have to go through and the whole moral compass being spinning around every single day, trying to you're trying to justify things. I think like the religious worldview is a very simple way to think about it, and if you don't have to think about it more than that, then you'll like live a happy life, right? But if I really think about it, that doesn't make sense to me either because it doesn't go more into detail. It doesn't really explain the root of life, and it doesn't
What
really explain why I need to do
what
it.
more detail could I go to with explaining the principle of induction? Like, how much
No,
more do you
I
need?
get the principle of induction, but what I'm saying is like I just want to go further than that. I want to like that's what I'm saying. Like
What is
it's
it
not
that's
something that I don't think
lacking?
a person can answer.
What is
It's
it
just
that's lacking though?
it just lack like
Like, what more
it's I don't know.
do you
It's
need? Like, once I
I
kind
just
of
want to find
realized
like
this,
it.
like, I just kind of, well, I mean, obviously, it's not that I know everything now because we'll never know everything, but it just made me so, like, oh, of course, like, that makes sense, you know? And
It just seems too binary for me. Like I feel like life is just more complex than you need to do this or do
it's
that.
not,
Like I
no,
don't
but
know.
that's also, you're missing the point because my worldview is not dualistic. Like, I don't believe in, like, and nor are we monistic. So, dualism is the belief that, like, good and evil are equal and opposite forces that comprise the essence of reality, right? Like both good and evil are essential to, essence itself, which is not what I believe. Whereas in the Christian worldview, good, like, just is, right? Like good does not necessitate the existence of evil to exist. Does that make sense? Whereas, like, in a dualistic worldview, you believe that good requires evil to exist in order for good to exist. Whereas, like, in my worldview, like, the good exists on its own, and the evil is just like it's defined as just a deviation from the good, right?
Yeah,
That's
it's antithesis to it.
no, it's not that it's an antithesis. It's that it is defined as like as just not for good, right? Like it doesn't have any sort of actual grounding
How is that
in and of
different?
itself. No,
You literally just said this. How is that
no.
different? How's it not an antithesis if it's just not the
All
thing?
right, let me run it through it one more time. So, do it. Are you, Jason? Bear with me.
I'm listening. I'm listening. I'm really listening.
So, dualism is good and evil are
Right. I get it.
are equal, right? And
I
they
understand. Yes.
necessitate either or to exist. Where in my worldview, good does not require the existence of evil, right? Because evil has
I get
not
it. Yes.
always been around, right?
Been
Like
around.
evil
Yes.
isn't
Since the
created, if that makes sense. Like, can you see how evil is just defined as not good?
wait. So I guess you could have a philosophical question about that. So evil isn't created. So like because religious like I mean
Well, can you see
basically
how
what because
God
like
didn't create evil?
well if he's omnipotent or omniscient or whatever the fucking omni word is and all knowing and all powerful like what he like that's the thing I've never it seems like he what all right fine so he didn't create evil but he just lets it happen
Yeah,
why
I mean it's
because like in the world you just explained like it would make more sense for God to believe the duo one because
no,
like
because
he would have
good
the
does
powers
not no
why does he let it happen then
no because what I was trying to say is the big difference is that in dualism, good requires evil in order to exist, whereas in my worldview, good just exists on its own, right?
I feel like they can both exist on their own, but still be either coalesced to one another or not.
No, okay, so
Like
then you believe in dualism.
I guess so, but like the concept of like because like say or Lucifer. I mean, actually, because Lucifer is kind of like more of a weak character in the Bible. Like he's not as like a scary evil figure as most people like make him out to be, right? Or is that not the worldview? I don't even fucking
I mean, it just
know
depends
anymore.
on how you want to define it. I mean, you have to remember that the
Well,
devil is just like he is just like he's so bad just because he was so good originally. Because the devil, he doesn't have any creative power. All he can do is just pervert, right? So that's why he takes really good and beautiful things, right? Like, I mean, humanity or sex, even, and like a bunch of other things, and he just perverts it,
right.
right?
Right,
So, like,
He's a metaphor for like the whole thing is him being the antichrist. Like he is the antithesis of everything that is good, considered to be good in a Christian worldview, and he's the
no,
opposite
no,
of
no, no,
that, and
no.
that's what
He's
makes
no,
him
no,
evil.
no. He's not. He's
He's the
not the
metaphorical
Antichrist.
evil.
No, no, no. He's not the Antichrist. The Antichrist is like the person who will be around on Earth. Like he'll be a human, like in the end times.
Okay, so then he's just the metaphorical embodiment of what is evil because it's the exact opposite
No,
of
but you have
Christianity.
to remember he is not pure evil either. Like pure evil isn't even like a thing, right? Because evil is just defined by deviation from the good, right?
I think this is a semantic battle. My point is that he's evil because he's the opposite of Christianity, and that
No,
is
it's
what's
not
good.
because
Is
he's
the
the opposite. It's because he is a deviation. Like all he is defined
what
by
is
is
it's the
that
same.
he no. It's not. Like he's not equal to God. Does that make sense?
No, I understand he's not equal, but like it's you didn't. This is so exhausting. He's not equal to it. I get that he's not as powerful. He's not. What I'm saying is like what he represents is what the opposite of what Christianity is, and if Christianity is the ultimate good, that's why he is characterized as bad. Why,
Right, but can
but
you
not on an equal playing field.
well what I
Go
yeah,
ahead,
what
dude.
so what I'm saying is there is an ultimate good, but there exists no such thing as an ultimate bad, right?
Okay,
Like good
fine,
and
fair
evil
enough.
isn't this back and forth like dialectical kind of, can you see how
I get it's not
that's
like a
not what it
Harry
is.
Potter like
Yeah,
I get
exactly.
it. I
It's
know
not
that.
like
But
the
my whole
forces
entire
of
point is
evil
the
come
fact that it's
in and
bad is
then
because
the
it's the opposite. Is what I'm saying.
I mean, I guess, but I just think you're like kind of missing the point of what I'm explaining. Like, but like you understand how like it's not like that good and evil are not equal forces that are in opposition, right?
I guess I don't believe. I don't think anything is equal. I think it's like I said. I don't think anything is black and white. I think there's a bunch of specific examples for things. I don't believe in one giant evil good force fighting for, balance and equilibrium in the universe. Like I don't think about things that specifically. I just think the entire concept is you can explain it the same exact way, and it doesn't. Both answers aren't really satisfactory to me. They both sound like guesses to me. I don't know. I like I said,
Can you
I'd have to
see
die and find
how
the universal truth to be what it is.
right?
I don't know.
But can you see how like the dualistic worldview which I presented, which also entails you transcend it by just kind of combining them both together, right?
Hmm.
And how that worldview and my worldview are saying fundamentally different things, right?
No, I totally understand. What I'm saying is that like I don't believe in the explanation of both of them. I believe that like duality as a concept of sometimes you like as a physical thing, sometimes you need a little bit of, make enough pressure to do diamond, but I think everything is in moderation. Like I don't think it's an equal force to be harmonious. I think to me that's the antithesis of me believing that the universe is more chaos than it is balanced.
But you have to understand, we don't believe that things are balanced. Well, I mean, obviously, yes, we
Yeah.
believe in balance, but it's not balanced by just the right amount of good and just the right amount of evil, right? Like that's not what balance is. Balance is just like it's just that which is ideal, right? Like that which is
Yeah,
good,
I don't
right?
think there is a concept of balance in Christianity or
And
in that sense, yeah.
well, yeah, because you have to understand, like it's not like the sort of like yeah, like back and forth, like okay, like they win tomorrow, but we win today. Like that's not really what it
Yeah, no,
is.
no, no.
Be-
That's not what I'm saying.
right, and so like can you see how like good is just how things we're set up to be, right?
Well, they'd have to be because then you could. That's kind of my point. That's why I think like it's. I don't know
Well, yeah,
because I
that's
feel
how
like
you
for
can
if I were to
understand like how evil requires good for you to know what it is, but you don't need to know evil in order to know good, right?
no, I get it. My point is that like the system that is set up, I think is fine and it's good, and you don't need to question it. I think it naturally makes sense. It should be an easy thing to follow. You know what I mean? Like I'm not disputing the effectiveness of it. I think that is the way how life should be, regardless if you believe in God or not. If that's the universal truth, how you're supposed to live your life on that sense of morality, I think that's fine. I think that's better than what we have now. My
Does
point
what
is that
I've
like the reason
presented to you, does that make sense to you?
it makes sense. It just isn't satisfactory to me. Like I just need like more. I need like a real reason why life has to be set up this way. I think is really more of my question. Like why do we have to do it this way? Why does life even have to be tempting in this way? Why do we even have to like think about living, think about a moral code to live by? Why can't we just naturally be that way? Why do we have to be born into
Well, that
sin? You
is
know what I
what
mean? Like
we're
it's very specific
well, we
things I
were
think about.
naturally
It's just like
born
why do we
into
have to
that.
do it this way?
You have to
Hmm?
remember before the fall, like the concept of murder would never eclipse our minds
That's what my point is. Why are we in the fall? Why does the fall have to
because we
happen? Why
did
did
it
God
to
let it happen?
ourselves.
That I didn't do shit. That's what I'm saying. Like
we
I
all
didn't do
bear the
anything. I was born
sin.
into it.
We all bear the original sin of Adam and Eve.
That's my
But
point. It's
also, I
just
have
like
another question. If
why?
this isn't real, if you don't
Why?
believe any of this is real, then why do you care?
No,
That's
it's not that I
like
don't believe that it's real. What I'm saying is like I don't know if it's real or not. I don't believe in a universal truth. I don't know it's real or not. My point is just I'm just questioning why does it have to be this way? Why does there have to
in
be a
your
sin in the
worldview,
first
this
place? Why do we
isn't
do it to ourselves? Why do we have to live with the consequences of it that we didn't even do it? Like I don't know. Like it's
right.
just so
But
specific for no
okay,
reason.
there's two things. The first thing is, well, you don't believe in it anyway, so like, well, why does it matter? Like, oh well. But then the second point is, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, me and like, I mean, tons of other Christians have talked about this for 2,000 years, and the Jews before that. Like, it's just bad things are like always gonna happen, right? Just because as long as man is a fallen being, a fallen creature, then bad things will happen, right? And we could either
Well,
just like deal with that reality by trying to make a better place, or we could just stay mad about it. It's
no, and
it's your choice.
no, I think you should do something about it. You just try to live it out the best you can. My point is just like, why does this have to be so specific like this?
Well, why is
Why do we have to?
specific less optimal than general?
Because like you said,
Like,
like
what would it
if
mean
we're
to
like
be
in
general
before the
to?
fall, we didn't ever have to think about any of this shit. We could just live in harmony and live with that universal good, and you live with that universal truth, right? And it's fine. We don't have to fucking worry about it. But now the fact that we did it to ourselves because of the concept of free will, and most of the time our free will is pretty self-destructive ever since then. So it's like, why did it even have to go down that way, and why does it still continue to this day? You know what I mean? Like,
Because
that's the point that
of the fall.
I know that,
But you have to
but
remember
why?
I mean, just we brought it upon ourselves.
That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking like
No, I no,
what was the point of
I understand what you're asking. I'm explaining to you how it is, and I know that it's just it doesn't really make it. Not that it isn't making sense, but like it's just that it's unsatisfying. Like I understand why.
well, no, my point is it's an answer you can't give me. It's an answer no one can give me. It's just one of those questions you think about, like, why does life have to be this way? Why have we been born into this type of sin? Like, I don't want to be born into this sin. I didn't
No,
do anything.
and
I wouldn't have done it in the
yes,
first
I
place. Like,
understand exactly what you're saying, and dude, like you don't
yes.
think how many times I've thought about this to myself.
Everyone thinks about it, but I'm
Right. So
genuinely want
what
to know.
I'm just
I really want to know
right. Why does it have to be this way? And the thing
why.
I will always answer is man is a fallen creature, and as long as we are a fallen creature, bad things will happen.
That's not good enough. You know what I mean? Like, I want to know why. I want to know why that I have to be lumped into this shit. I want to know why we were given free will in the first place. If God knew this was going to happen,
Well,
like,
God
that's
gave us
it's
free
just
will
so.
because He loves us, and He wants us to really love us. He doesn't want us to just be robots. He wants us to really know and love Him. Right?
Well, if He created us in His image, then is His image self-destructive, and is He of sin too? Does He regret
No,
His
because you have to
mistake?
remember we are like God, but we are not God Himself. Does that make sense?
No, I know
And you
that,
have to
but like,
remember,
is
like,
there
is there what? Well, you have to remember, our
like he?
nature is good. Our nature isn't evil. Our nature is
Have
it's
you?
just corrupted. Does that make sense? Like our nature,
Have you?
as God made it, is good.
I understand that, but but then again, if you really think about it, like so, like,
Mm.
and this is all whatever. It's just an interesting thing to think about. So it's like
Right.
the fact that he's all powerful. Like if he was gonna, if I was gonna make something, knowing that eventually it was gonna get fucked up one day, like what is the point of like why would God even want to make us in the first place? Like is he just that bored? What is the point of creation if you know it's just gonna fail anyway? And then why would you want to keep tabs on it? Like do you like I don't know. It's
You
just
want to know
I
why?
don't see the purpose for our creation. I don't like we just don't seem like that important of things to be that loved.
Y-
You know what I mean? Like if we're so fucked up and our nature is so derailed and it got corrupted that easily for thousands of years, now we have to live with the consequences of it. What the fuck is the point? There is no point. And that's why I think everything is chaos because nothing explains it. Are the universe is hostile or God is hostile? One of the fucking two.
Well,
I don't think there
that's
is any harmony.
that's a well. I know you don't truly. I know you don't truly believe that. It's just this specific question that's kind of making you frustrated, and I understand that. But
But no, seriously, like, what is the point of making us if this is just what we're gonna be? Because if he already knew
because
that already,
because he loves us, he doesn't.
that makes no fucking sense.
Let me explain it to you. He doesn't need us to exist. He's just him, right? But because
I
he
get it. I
doesn't
just want
need
to know
us,
why.
he created us, and that's why he loves us.
That makes that literally makes no sense. He doesn't need us, so he creates us, so he loves us. That doesn't make any sense.
What's like what is there that you're missing? That's like why
What I'm
his
missing is the fucking entire purpose. What the whole purpose
is
to make
to
us is
love
because he
and
loves
serve
us, and then we're
him.
just
Yes.
that makes no sense.
How?
Because it's useless. You make something because you like it, but then it's just gonna get fucked up. And like, do you feel bad about? Like, I don't like. It's so
That's
dumb.
not
Like, we're such a
his. No,
biological
that's not.
mistake.
No. Okay, Mr.
We have
Lennon.
no greater purpose but just to fail and be loved. Like that's, dude. Like I don't know.
No, but we don't fail because of his accord. It's we fail because of our own shortcomings, right?
why does it have to be that way for eternity? Why does the original sin, the
No,
original fall, have to like
it's
haunt us for
no, it's not going to be
the
like
end of
that for
time?
eternity because, well, there will be the end of time. We don't know when that's going to come
On Earth though, why do we have to go through this purgatory on Earth? Like if you think about it, we're
because we
created
brought it upon
to
ourselves.
suffer until we have to die, and then we get be like enlightened again. Like it just
No,
makes
but
no fucking sense the way we have to do
but you have
this.
to understand that the world is not entirely bad. Like you can still see, I mean, with the examples you see in people, in like how good a certain food tastes, how good certain piece of music sounds. Like you can still see vestiges of the world how it used to be, right? And the whole point is to just take those things that are good and just like I mean it's I know it can be really hard given all the bad stuff you see, but the whole point is to just like you have to just throw away and try to just get all the bad stuff out and focus on what's good, right?
No, I agree, whole 100%. You
Um,
can't just give up. You have to live your life the
yes,
best you can. I'm just saying, like there is no purpose to it.
right.
It's
But
purposeless.
can you see how it's purposeful because you know that it will all be reconciled in the end? Like,
No, it would make more sense to me. Like if people and people are scared about that. Like that's the one thing that I don't know if it's the major thing for people that are born again or weren't raised with it. Like that's what they're scared of, right? They're scared of having that sort of eternal damnation, so they just do it out of compliance because they don't want to suffer for I don't know eternity.
yeah, but
Like
I'm just saying that the people that think that are missing the point. That like it's not just avoiding hell. Like it's not just a question of am I saved or am I not saved. The question is who is God, right? And it's a matter of
why can't we?
knowing and loving God. Like that's why
Well,
I
so like
don't
after all this happened,
like think about it like this. Like I don't like paranoid. I'm not saying you do this, but like I don't like given the religion I have, the worldview I have, and and all these things, like I don't ever get worried. I don't ever get paranoid about am I going to heaven or hell because I know that the point is as long as I know and love and serve God, then everything will be good, right? I know that everything's going to be
no,
good,
no.
right? And that's why,
I'm
like,
saying the people that get
hmm,
into it for that reason, like that's
well,
like
that's
I
the
know a
wrong
lot, like,
reason.
and I didn't make that up. People have told me
Oh,
that.
I
You
know.
know
Yeah,
what
no. Oh, I believe you've come across some characters in the guitar store.
it's not even
But
that.
what
It's
I'm
just people
saying
that
is
I've known in my life.
that's missing the point.
No, I get it. It's doing it for the wrong reason. I understand that.
Yes, exactly.
My whole point is just why is the concept of our fall going to be looming over us for eternity? So like the only thing that we can do, like what is the point of putting us on earth in the first place? Like why can't we just, if he loves us so much, why can't we just be in heaven already and not even have to go through this bullshit? Like why do we have to go through all this like for
Well,
the end of time?
like
Why does nothing change? Why does everything just remain this way?
okay, Mr. School Shooter.
What? No,
Not,
that is not
remember in the
even remotely
manifesto,
negative, and
nothing
that's not
ever
even remotely
changes.
negative. There's, how'd you get anything negative from what I just said? I just said, why can't we just all be
No.
purposeful and blissful in heaven? Why do we have to suffer on
No.
fucking earth because of
The
something that someone
specific thing
did
you
2,000
said
years ago?
of like remember from that like school shooter manifesto where he said like nothing ever happens or something. Where it's like the
No,
what?
I don't. Which one are you talking about?
Remember, it's the one where it's like the guys like the West has fallen or something like that.
That's a lot of them.
But it's that
Maybe the Parkland shooter, I guess, in a more dumbed down version. I
it
don't
might be
fucking
that
know.
it's like he says like nothing ever happens. The West has fallen. Billions must suffer and something like that.
Oh, it's probably Elliot Rogers because he couldn't get, but that's because he couldn't get pussy. So that's a very specific reason. That wasn't he wasn't having existential crisis
No.
about the
I'm
universe
not.
and God. He just could not get laid.
Yeah, I know. I'm not saying you're like him. It's just when you said that thing, it
The
reminded me of
fuck?
that. I was just making a joke.
No, I just my point is just like this. All this seems very specific, weird, and useless to go through in the first place. You know what I mean? Like it seems unnecessary to do everything this way.
Well, I mean that's just personal incredulity. Like just because you don't,
Yeah.
just because you don't know how to drive a car doesn't mean that the car can't be driven, right?
I'm not a no. I'm not a. What I'm saying is like it's very. Obviously there's things that I don't understand that if someone shows me how to do, then yeah, that's the right way to do it. My entire point is that for thousands of years This is just what humanity's been boiled down to. I just want to know why it has to be this way. I'm not saying it isn't. I just want to know why. And no one can give me that answer
Why?
besides the man
Because,
himself.
I mean, like I said, we brought this upon ourselves.
That's not a good enough reason. We is not me. You know what I mean? It's like,
We're all
the
man.
people
I
that cry
mean,
about,
dude, like,
never mind, but
no, but it is us because in the sense that, I mean, dude, like, we sin all the time, right? I mean, me, I'm a big sinner, right? We betray Jesus all the time, right?
but why?
Because of the fall. Like, we're all man. Does that make sense?
That's what I'm saying. I hate this concept that we're just doomed from the start.
Yeah,
And we have to pick up the
we're
pieces
not
of this
doomed,
fucking
though.
prior ancient bullshit.
We're not doomed, though.
I hate that concept.
But, like, can you see how we're not doomed? Because God,
From the start is what I'm saying. We're starting off
well,
like
no,
this.
because from the start we were good, and then Adam and Eve fucked
I
it
meant
up.
of our lives, not original humanity. I'm talking about you as a baby.
Right. But what I'm presenting to you is that God, Christ, and his church and his word, right? It gives us the solutions and the things to abide by to reconcile with these things, right? And I mean, like in my example, like when I actually do these things that I know God wants me to do, right? And that he wants all of us to do, like things are a lot better. Almost every kind of way you could think about it, right? I understand you might not think that same way, but I mean that's just is what it is.
I mean, I think everyone should live their life based off of a guideline to I don't think I'm not questioning your guideline. I just want to know specifically why it led to this. Why do we have to fall in the first place? Why do we do it to ourselves? Why did he let us do it to ourselves? Why do we have to fucking pick up the
Because we
pieces
have
and
the
then do all this?
choice.
Why do we choose to do that? That's what I'm
Because we're
saying. Like he would know the
retarded.
answer to that.
We're
That's not,
retarded. Like what do
that's
you want me
not
to
good enough.
say?
Why did he create us to be retarded then?
Because he gave
That's
us
so
free
stupid.
will.
Why?
Because he wants us to make the choice ourselves to love him. He doesn't want us as robots just programmed to just choose everything cuz like that's not like it's not love, right?
Well, why would the majority of people choose this then?
Choose what?
If we have the if God creates a human being with the concept of free will, why is 9 times out of 10 that free will is going to choose to do something bad? Why we are
Well,
designed that way then?
no, we're not
Why are we
we're
designed
not
that way?
designed that way.
We are
We're
because
fallen,
it's
we're
we
corrupted.
have actual why then why is that just why is that the narrative then why is
Hmm.
the original fall going to dictate the rest of our free will for the all of eternity? Why does it have to be that way? Why can't we just
It
why
doesn't,
can't
and what I'm
just there's
saying is
some mending that has to happen?
you can choose to do the good, right?
Oh man.
Can you see how that's the
Yes,
reconciliation
I
you get?
believe you should choose it, and I think there is no
Right,
excuse to not
because
choose it.
right,
But we
because
have a natural
as
inclination to not do that. Is what I'm saying. Where does that? What
well, no,
I
it's
get
not.
it comes from the
It's
fall, but
right. It's
why?
not natural. That's referred to as concupiscence or concupiscence. It's like our disposition to do the bad things
Right.
because our first mother and father fell from God, and we have.
Talking about generational fucking trauma. Fucking
Well, of course. I mean, what you're. I mean, like the cycle almost rinses and repeats. Not in every context, of course, because you always have the You always have the choice to not do bad things. But I mean, a lot of times, like if your dad was like an abuser, then you're probably going to be an abuser too, and so is his dad probably, and probably his dad before him, right?
yeah, and I hate the fact that we're like. That's what I'm saying. We just feel like fucking
Yeah, I do too. But
genetic
the
mistakes.
solution, no, and that's the thing is we're not. I mean, like God has a purpose for all of us. He wants us to be here, and not only that, He wants us to be in the time, the place, and the family in which we're born, right? Because in every moment we can always make the choice to love and serve God, right? And he wants us to do that always. So he always gives us like think about it like this. Like if somebody prays to God like for courage. Do you think God is going to like, just give him courage, or is he going to get present him an opportunity to be courageous? Right.
I could be both. I don't fucking know.
Right, but it's not like it's he gives us the opportunity and we make the decision. I mean, like that's what makes us like a good or bad person, right? Because it has nothing to do with like at the end of the day when we're all judged and we're all sitting before God, like it's not going to have anything to do with what your job was or what social class or position you belonged to, right? Like it is just a decision of at the end of the day, what are the choices that you made, given how much you knew, given how much like I mean like a bunch of different things, right? But like it's just it's the choices we make, and we can always choose to do the right thing.
No, and I like the concept on its own of free will. I like having the ability to choose the right or the wrong thing, and then if you do the wrong thing, having to bear the consequences of your actions. Like to me, that's the point of life. My whole point is like, why are we so predisposed to do this from the fall? You know what I mean? Like,
Well, that's where
it's something
it
that happened a long time ago, and then we're still just gonna reap the fucking consequences for the end of time. So like, the concept of free will is fine, and I like it. I get it, but just our predisposition to fail and make the wrong choices is what is so useless and so fucking like frustrating to me as a concept. It's like
no, and I
it
know
doesn't
it
have to
is, and
be that way. It really
it's
doesn't. And it's the fact that it's just going to be for the end of time. It just seems like it's an excuse.
but it like I said is just, it doesn't have to be that way.
I get it. I know it's a predisposition, and I know you have the. I get the concept of free will. What I'm saying is that like it is such a hard choice to do that. You have to like, and honestly, I think that you should do hard things. Like everything shouldn't be fucking easy and happy. I do think there has to be some balance of pain and suffering. I'm sorry, and bliss and suffering. You know what I mean? Like I think there should be. It doesn't have to be equal, but there should be a little bit of balance because I think if you just lived your life and it was good and fine all the time, it'd be fucking boring. So that's when people feel like they're alive. So like, the fact that it is presently is fine, but it's just the fact that like the balance of it seems way fucking far tipped out to the bad than it does the good, and it's easy to see with anyone living in these times. You know what I mean? Like, and fine if that's
I
just the
mean,
way
it's
that
easy
it
to
is,
see in
whatever.
people
But it just
living in
seems
any
dumb.
time. I mean,
I get it.
there's always
Yeah.
bad people. There's always going to be
No, I
people
know.
that rub you the wrong way, I guess. No, like
I know. Like I said.
I understand, dude, like how it can be frustrating. But like the whole point is like there is a good there that like you can like, aspire to and hope for and realize that like there is hope for the future. It's not just despair and tragedy, right? And the whole
Well,
reason
like I
that
said,
that's
let's.
tragedy is because it takes something that's so good and perverts it. Remember, like I was explaining before?
Which is why I was confused when you don't see the. I guess like the concept of dualism being equal as a unifying force, but like the fact that you still need it there as a balance, some sort of balance, because then you wouldn't know from the good.
But like what I'm saying is like the good exists on its own and you know what's good, but like you don't need evil to know what good is, but you do need good to know what evil is. Because evil is just defined as not good.
Right. You know, I
Yeah.
get that.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like what was I gonna say? Just framing it in the sense of like always remember what I told you, how like everyone has dignity because God God created us, right? And he created everything. And you have to remember the devil like hates God because he doesn't have power to create, which is the thing that God has. Right? That's why the devil hates hates with a burning passion. Specifically, I mean, he hates all of creation, right? He hates the trees, he hates the sea, he hates the animals, but what he hates more than anything, I mean, other than God, of course, is human life. He hates it with a burning passion, right? Because we're made in his image, right? And we're made to love and serve him, right? And so that's why he does everything in his like, ability to like just like eradicate human life from the planet, right?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's why like these evil ideologies and worldviews more often than not, like, beget like dire consequences and tragedies, like Nazism killing, you know, 6 million human beings, or the Holodomor with communism, right? Killed 6 million Ukrainians, right? And so on and so forth. Like, just the devil hates human life, and whatever
So
he.
here's a question then. So
Sure.
how much do you really think is because like if it's the fact where like God really values free will and doesn't want us just to be his robots, his happy robot slaves, whatever, how much of it is actually free will of our choosing and how much of it is actually like influence from the devil? Because people kind of blur that line. So it's like, do we actually have free will or we really just have to work so hard to break free from the temptations of the devil, which how much free will can you really have when you're just constantly like being torn apart between two different fucking things and trying to figure out if most of the things you like are self-destructive and that's the influence of the devil, how much free will do you really have?
Well, because you got to remember, like, it's not like you can't use that as an excuse of like, oh, the devil made me do that. It's like, no, the devil
No,
didn't
yeah,
make you do anything. Like, you did it, right? And like,
but how much is the influence over the free will is what I'm saying. If he hates human life and it's his entire purpose to destroy
well,
humanity.
right. So that brings into other questions of, how much do you know, right? Because if you don't know like the good, then that's not the same thing as someone like me who does know the good, and I still choose the wrong thing. Like someone who grew up on an island, like in the like first century or something, in the middle of, like, off the coast of South America, and who died without hearing the gospel ever. Like, he's and the choices he made are judged by a very different standard than the choices made by someone like me, right?
Right.
So that's part of it too. But like, so the question of like how much of it is the devil? I mean, that's just how much you want to let him do it, right? Because I mean, if you invite demons into your body, mind, and soul, and in your life, whether you like it or not, they're gonna come, right?
Well, I guess it's a
So,
better question for you then, because you of all people like know more of it than I feel like most people that I talk to that are religious. So it's like when
mhm.
you decide to make those bad choices, like how much of that is of your own free will and how much do you think you're being influenced? Because you of all people know a little bit more than someone that's on an island that's never heard the word at all. So it's like what is your justification? Well, not justification. Like what is your feeling of it when you do something like that? Like do you ever think about like why did I really do this thing? I know that was bad and I know that was a sin. And this is not me being I'm not high roading you. I just generally want to
sure,
know your
yeah, no, I
thinking
don't.
process behind
Yeah, I
it.
don't think you're doing that at all. More often than not, I mean, it's just a moment of weakness, right? And like,
Right, but why is that there though? Like do you feel like your moment of weakness is like is that strong influence of the devil that you just were weak in that moment succumbing to it, or do you
well,
just
I mean, it's all, yeah.
like that?
You have to remember, like, the devil and demons are constantly trying to get a hold of each and every one of us, but you can avoid
Right.
that by bringing more godly things into your life, and more, like a lot of the objects I have, like in my house, and like images, like make me think of positive things, right? And like godly things, right? Like I have pictures of Jesus, I have pictures of the saints, lots of crosses, right? And that brings blessings, right? Whereas like if I don't have that, or if I have, like satanic stuff in my house, like that's obviously going to get me thinking less about the good of things and God, right? So it's just it like you can take cautionary measures, right, to try to minimize the influence of the devil as much as possible. I mean, it's always going to be there because we're always going to be tempted, right? But
Do you really think that's free will then if you have to do all the specific things to like stop you from being influenced that heavily?
well,
Like is
yes,
that really a
because
concept of free will?
you can always choose to do good. And also think about it this way. I mean, like, even if you are like, the devil catches you in like a really like weak instance, right, where you really want to give up, like, that's actually when it, like, you want to actually double down and say, no, I'm not gonna give in. I like think of it like this way, like they always tell you, like, you keep going with the workout when when your body's telling you like, no, 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 you got to stop now. Like that's when you got to
Right.
push through, right?
No, I get the concept of like discipline and fortitude. Like I think it's all good things. I
So
just
can you see how it's
when
a
you think about it,
disciplinary thing?
no, it's totally disciplinary. But
Hmm.
my point is just like it's like when you if you were to give someone like here's the best analogy I can think of. Like you take a person that's not under the influence of something,
Right.
and you tell them to write you a synopsis on Hamlet, and then you give someone LSD, and then you tell them to write you a synopsis on Hamlet. Which person is going to do a better job? You know what I mean? It's like how much influence the devil has on you opposed to someone that doesn't have that much influence of the devil on them. Like what person has more free will than the other? They both make the choice to do it, but like of the two, one of them has an easier choice to make, and it's not as difficult. You know what I mean? Like it's that's what it's conflated to. Like yes, we have the ability and the discipline to make the right choices, but why is it so hard for us to do it in the first place? I think it's good to do hard things, but why is it there in the first place?
Well, because you have to understand that without God, we're nothing. Like we are weak, right? And the only reason that we can be good and be strong, right, is because of God, right? And so, like when that stuff is kind of cut out and shut out, then you're going to be more susceptible to these things, right?
I don't know. I don't know how more susceptible. Like I
Well,
know
so you have to
people that just live.
understand, like God also gave us the faculties of reason, right? And like animals don't have that, right? So like we have the concept to like we have the ability to just sit down and like rationalize through things and and contemplate and weigh things out, right? And so when you're under the influence of something like LSD or something like that, like you lose your faculties of reason, right? And when you lose the
So then what?
faculties of reason, then like you are, it opens up your portals to the demonic world.
So you could technically make that argument for like when you thought about the times that you've done something that was a sin, you could just say like, um, my reason has been compromised by more influence of the devil. My ability to do that has been hindered, right?
Say that again, I guess.
Like if you're using that same analogy, like the thing that separates us from animals is our ability to reason and rationalize
Hmm.
things. So like in the times where like you have that rational capability, you know right from wrong to the letter of God, right?
Right.
But yet you still are get caught in those moments of weakness because of temptation. So you could technically make the argument that your ability to rationalize that has been weakened to a certain extent. To where like if you had like you wouldn't have done it in the first place because you can have all the reason and rationalizing you want. You know about it. You know what the consequences are. You know what you have to do if you do it. But then you still are caught in that moment of weakness anyway, and then you do it.
Well,
Like
yeah,
you get what
yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah,
Like
I do.
there has to be some sort of push over point. So it's like you can have all the rationalization in the world, but why do you feel weak in that moment? If you're being tempted so much by an outside demonic
I mean,
force,
because we're not
if you're doing so good,
perfect. I mean, that's what you have to understand.
no, I know
Because
that, but
if we
my
were,
point is
then
just
it would never happen.
it's just the theory of it. Like what like the concept of free will,
Hmm.
how much influence does that have over you, and the ability to rationalize all three going together, and you can have that all perfect, and then you just make that mistake again for what? You know what I mean? Like what I'm
I
saying
mean,
is
it
like I
happens
want to
all
know
the
that what
time
I want to know why.
because you have to remember the principle of like what the devil tempted Adam and Eve with in the Garden of Eden, which is that he whispers in your ear and he says, huh, are you sure that God loves you? Right? Do you really think that he loves you? Because if he did love you, he would let you eat from this tree, right? And that's what the devil does, right? Is he constantly tries to get you to think that God really doesn't love you, you know? And when you doubt, that's when the shit kind of, that's what's going to make you make those bad decisions. And that happens all the time.
Do you feel like in you don't have to answer like in your personal life, you feel like the times where you've sinned the worst is where you've doubted the most?
Oh yeah. And I feel like when you sin, um like that just leads up, like that leads the door up into more sin. and it just keeps going and on. Like when like you receive the sacrament of penance and whatnot, and you truly make a desire, like you have the desire to not sin anymore, right? Which I mean, of course, you're gonna do it, but like it's really just the desire not to, right? Like things, yeah, like I find like I sin a lot less, and like just things go better in my life, right? And nothing good comes from sin, you know. It doesn't help me, and it doesn't help anybody around me.
Do you Was there a scenario where it caused you to like feel an unwavering amount of doubt, or did it just like does it randomly just hit you for no reason? Like, or is there very specific things that happen to you that cause you to doubt?
It's kind of both. Like there's certain like sometimes like when I it's not every time, but sometimes like when I sleep in really late, or like I don't take a shower right away, or like I'm not being like constructive with my time, and I'm being lazy, that's gonna open up the door more to fall into these things. Or like, yeah, sometimes it just happens out of the blue, you know?
Hmm.
But so that's why the point is to like I don't want to say distract yourself, because then you're still kind of giving the devil too much power. But what it is just to focus on things that are good, right? And that are edifying, and that fill you up with, like good spirit, right? So like it's like focus on your hobbies, and like your music and your cooking, right? Like talk to like people, and I mean that's also part of it, is who are the people around you. Like have you ever thought about that, Jason? Like what's your
I think about it all the
right?
time.
Like
I feel like most of the time, if I was had better people around me, I'd be way better. But also, it's kind of fucked up to think about that too. It's like it almost is like you're blaming everyone else for your own problems. So I think it's a mixture of both. I feel
right,
like you
because you
do have
can't
to
do
have the
that.
right amount of people
Yeah.
around you, and then also have like the autonomy to be around people that aren't good for you. You know what I mean? Like you kind of have to be able to separate. But no, I remember having an argument that when I was I think I was in high school with my parents, and my I remember I wasn't hanging out with like delinquents, but like my friends were just doing like dumb things. My mom was like, you really need to surround yourself with better people, and I'm like, no, I'm fine, mom, I can handle, I can be around anyone and be fun, you know what I mean? Like I just had that arrogance to it.
Yeah.
um but no, having the right people around you it means a lot more than like having fucking the worst people around you. God, there's like I think people really need to just take a step back and look at who they associate with. It's very fucking important.
Yeah.
Very fucking important.
I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily exactly this way, but I think like my mom told me like she read a book about how um you are the amalgamation of the five people you spend the most time with. I didn't
I'd agree.
Yeah, I didn't read the book, but I could definitely see what they're saying. Um like it's kind of like the concept, I'm sure you've heard people say, like if you hang out with losers, then like you will be a loser.
Yeah, and I remember the reason why I used to disagree when I was younger because I felt like I knew the faults. Like I feel like I could see very clearly the other faults of people, and I could realize how I could be different from them. So I always had the mindset like I would just observe other people and like not be super close to them, and I would just I would see what they were doing that was wrong, and I would do the opposite of it or try to learn from it vicariously, right?
Right.
But I didn't like take into account like the amount of subconscious stuff, like my lingo, my verbs, my everything I do would be I would talk similar, or I would unconsciously do similar things without even. So it's like that. That's the one thing I had to learn the hard way, is that like you can't predict how people will affect you, no matter how much control you think you exuberate.
Well, yeah, no, I know what you mean. This is kind of like a personal question, but like, would you say that the majority of life you've had good influence or bad influence, or kind of just both? What do you think?
I think I've had more good influence than bad because I think like the
Hmm.
most important part is my parents were a really good influence on me. So I feel
That's
like
good.
if I had like bad influences for friends, like I would have been probably set right anyway. And also I just have a desire just to do what I feel like is right. Like I don't want to have any static. Like I hate uncomfortableness. And so like I wouldn't want to be a burden for people or cause a ton of hurt or just try to do all that shit. Like and
Mm.
you do it, accidentally, but like it's not in my nature to just like ignore all that. Like sometimes I'm just like hypercritical of myself. But no, I think I've had more good influences than bad, or I could very clearly tell with the bad influences where I didn't have a desire to go chase it. I didn't have like a I don't know. I was cynical about the things that happened around in life and just hyper aware of all the negative shit that happens in the world. But like, I didn't have this like existential desire to just like not give a shit about anything
Mm.
ever. Like, I was yearning for a sense of purpose and truth and existence and light. But no, the people that I've been around that like because sometimes I notice like especially on social media and I delete like there was a period where I would only follow people I didn't even know on Facebook just to like watch their downfall, like just like laugh at how like they were doing making poor choices, and like I just took a step back and be like, this is not good. I don't want to be like have this energy fucking around me because like just and also just it's a dangerous feeling to think that you're better than everyone constantly even though you don't make poor decisions. Like it's still not good to just think about yourself that way. Like it's more destructive in the long run.
Yeah, like I had some problems of like like talking about people behind their back. Like that's not okay.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like as like annoying or whatever is like they could be. Like you never know what's going on, and like that never does. Like it can be a struggle sometimes. To, like, and I have enough things about me that like I can connect with other people in a lot of ways. But like it's like when you connect with someone just in by like making fun of another person, like that's not okay. And unfortunately, I do that more than I should. But yeah, I just think that's very harmful.
I think influence is powerful more than I used to admit.
But
And that's why the other thing too is like I hate that. I hate the power. Like I hate the fact that we're just so easily influenced, and obviously some more than others. But I don't know. This the more I think about the complexities of life and why we're here, what our purpose is, it's just like none of it fucking makes sense to me. And I think that's my ultimate frustration. But it doesn't like affect my daily day life. Like it doesn't that doesn't influence my decisions. You know what I mean? Like I try to do the best that I can and try to I mean, honestly, I just try to live to the same code that you live by, not to the specific letters that you probably do. But like I don't deviate to this weird like sense of morality. I really don't. I don't feel the need to.
I remember you said like when I was saying like it's a question of also like the company you have with you, and you said, "Oh yeah." Like I think like you're implying that like you sometimes like don't have that.
What do you mean good company?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've had not good company in the past, and like, but I've been very aware of how damaging it was to me. Like, it wasn't a mystery; it was
Ah,
very
okay.
fucking blatant. It was the fact that like it was hard to deal with because like everything is easier said than done. You know what I mean? It's easy to rationalize things. It's easy to say what I need to do,
Very
but
much
when you're
so, yeah.
stuck in the fucking shit, it's really fucking hard to do the right thing. Well, not do the right thing, but hard to do what you need to do to benefit yourself or get away from this kind of people because like it's
Have you
I don't
ever
know, and that's one thing.
read the lives of the saints or anything like that?
No.
Because they I mean obviously there's thousands of saints, right? But like the really famous ones, I mean of course all of them, they have really good stories because they answer the age old question of what would Jesus do, you know? Because we have all of these like hyper specific blah 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 scenarios, right? Where it's like, what would Jesus do in that context, right? And the saints give us the answers to that. And not only that, is that every saint is just like it shows how like we're all different, you know? And everyone has this certain thing that they're good at or the thing that bothers them, right? And the things that they overcome, you know? Like I mean look at St. Patrick. I mean he was enslaved his whole life. His whole life he was a slave, and I mean it sucked, but what he realized is like yeah, this sucks, but like you kind of just have to like move on, you know, and deal with it. And also he was able to bring Jesus to the people of Ireland, you know, and it did all these great things, right? Because he had the positive look, right? You know, like on life, and he was able to, and when you have the positive look, you know, like you can like things will just like it'll just get better. Like you always have to just look at what is the good, right? And like other situations, like Saint Martin de Porres, he was the bastard son of a Spanish nobleman and an African slave, and he was discriminated against his whole life. People were huge racists to him, and he talks about it in his writings of like dealing with racism and how it's like, yeah, I mean, it sucks. Like racism like is immoral. You shouldn't like we shouldn't have that, but like it's happened to me. And the whole point is you just have to kind of get over it and remember that like Christ really is the reason that we're here, right? And you have to live a Christ centric life, you know, and you always have to do like you always have to know, love, and serve Him, right? And I think when we get fixated on these kind of other things, that's when things don't get as good. Because I mean, like, well, not just racism or like being like a slavery or whatever it is. Like a lot of these like struggles that we deal with, I mean, like obviously they're there. Like I'm not going to say they aren't, but and it's not just me kind of dismissing it and saying, "Oh, just get over it." Like that's not really it, but what it really is just you have to understand like it's getting over it in the sense and then moving on in the sense of realizing that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. He is the reason why we're here. And that's like as long as I can like worship Jesus, then like that's all I need. And if like I know that he loves me, then that's all I need. And I really think to myself that almost every day, right? When I just kind of remember I was talking about before when I like when I see the good in other people, right? When I see the good in you, Jason, and like I just see how good of a company you are, how fun it is to do this podcast. I have my wonderful family, right? I see the beauty in a certain painting. I taste this food and it tastes really good, or like I just like I see how like the good in like like a film, or I see the beauty of a garden and nature. Like it just like when you realize that, and you realize like that these are just sort of reflections of the beauty and the goodness of God, right? And I realize like as long as I have him, and as long as we have him, like I don't need anything else. Like it just allows me to see the good and just everything, and just it makes everything so much better, right? Whereas I feel like and I understand how like someone who doesn't have this sort of mindset, like everything can just seem kind of boring. Everything could just seem kind of lame and ugly and gross.
No, honestly, that's honestly the best way to live your life. I think like you have to do that. You have like I remember we were talking about this before of like everyone is religious about something.
Yeah,
So whether it
in the
is
sense that
like a
everyone
traditional religion,
worships something. Yeah,
yeah.
everyone
So
has
it's like
something
whatever
that
that is,
they dedicate their time to. That they think about all the
yeah.
time. Yeah,
But no, I very highly encourage people to chase out the beauty of life, whether it's aesthetically or finding a hobby or just like the right people around you. Like that is, to me, that is the meaning of life. That is the most important thing you can do, is triumph over adversity, no matter how difficult it is, and try to live your life that way. Like I really think that's what it's about. And I don't think you need to prove an existence of a deity to do that. You know what I mean? Like I feel like for you, it makes it more of a euphoria. I feel like it's more of a drug. I'm sorry, it's
no,
drug.
I
Well, I
see
mean,
what
it's the
you're
same
saying,
premise.
but like,
You get. I'm not saying it's like
well, it's not just
but
a
it's more intoxicating to like feel that way because you have it's like your divine purpose and you feel like it's being fulfilled and it's being reflected in like the good parts of your life.
that's part of it, but that doesn't have anything really to do with what is true and what isn't. I mean, that's a cool byproduct,
No,
but
I
that's
know.
not the goal. Like the goal of like our lives is not to like feel the what is the best, or and whatnot. Like it is to
No, I know.
know and love and serve God for our salvation and whatnot. Like that's the goal of life, right? And the good
I'm just saying
feeling you
because
get from that is just the byproduct.
I know. I'm just saying because you believe in that truth, it like totally enhances your ability to enjoy those aspects of life,
Well,
and
sure, yeah,
that's what I mean.
yeah. No, I agree with you in that. I'm just saying, like it goes like beyond just. the actual like because I believe in this thing, like it makes me feel better, and therefore like it allows me to live life better. It's like, well, yes, but also like it's because like I mean like this is what's true, you know?
Yeah, no, like you said, it was just a byproduct of it. But I think like regardless, like everyone should just do that,
Well,
no
yeah, I
matter
mean
what they fucking believe.
it's kind of the question. Like I get a lot of like, well, does Christianity make people feel good or bad? It's like, well, I mean, maybe it does both, but like that doesn't have anything to do with whether or not it's true or not.
Yeah,
Or like, does this
but it definitely affects how people like you being on this planet and being having to share it with everyone else. Like if you were just fucking like that, then it would be way better for everyone else, regardless.
right? Or like the
Fucking
question of
here
like,
on Earth.
like, does this religion make me feel better or worse than that religion? It's like, well, the same thing. It's like, well, maybe, but that doesn't have anything to do with what is true or what is not, you know?
Well,
Well, I mean, of course, I believe that the truth is by necessity good. And if you know the truth and you see the truth, then like things will just like because you know the truth, like things are just it's gonna be good, right? You're gonna see the good things because you understand and you know the truth.
I guess I'm just trying to. I don't know. What's interesting is that in my own personal life, I've never really. I feel like I've spent more time trying to justify all of the things that I knew weren't good
Hmm.
instead of actually trying to like realize the things that are important to me actually and the things that are actually good. So it's one of those things where it's like I don't disagree with the premise that it is a good way to live your life. I really just want like I don't know. I guess I just want more complicated answers on why life had to be this way in the first place. What was the whole reason for it? Like I don't know, just standard like because he loves us and because we have free will. Just I don't know. It just has never cut it for me. I guess I just feel life is more complex than that, and that's what I'm saying. So like for me to really be satisfied with an answer, I'd have to I'd have to experience it and ask it myself.
But
I don't, and I think that's
like
just how it is.
I mean, what'll it take? Like, what if I gave you a more complicated answer? Like, when will you know? Okay, that's it. I'm satisfied. That was the complicated answer I was wanting to know.
What I'm saying is I don't think there is one that I can get from anyone. That's what I'm saying. I think I would have to like legitimately, ask them on the other side. Like I said, I don't think there is a human answer. I think like if things are just the way they are because
Yeah, but I'm not
that's just
giving
how
you
God
a
intended
human
them, then
answer. I
I
mean,
really
this
want to
is
know.
what's been revealed to us over time by God.
I don't know. I and to be fair, there might be, but I doubt it. But not like in like a, I'm right. I doubt it. It's when like I doubt because like every time I've asked it to anyone or anytime I've like read anything about it, like never like I just don't feel it. It's never been satiating to me.
But that's
Not
how
from like an
these
ideological standpoint, just from a
right.
feeling.
But that's how these teachings like that's how we can like know these things because God put his church here on earth to be the voice of reason among men, right?
And I've never felt satisfied with that. Is what I'm saying.
But then I
That's
mean,
why like
you'll
I really
never
would have
know
to feel like a
anything. Like
presence. I mean, possibly so, but I'd be lying if I said that I
but
felt it. You know
feeling
what I
the
mean? Like I,
presence, like I mean, how do you know when that's I mean, how do you know that's from God too? That's another thing. I mean,
I mean, I don't know.
people
People
have
always
claimed
claim
to,
that.
yeah, exactly. So like, how do you know that they're being legit, or how do you know that wasn't a demon, right?
I wouldn't know. That's what I'm saying. Like, but I don't have this natural feeling that God talks to me that everyone else that I've grew up with
Right, because
would.
that's
Like,
not
I've never
exactly how
felt
it
that.
works, and you have to remember, like, it's not really just about the actual like euphoric feeling. I mean, like that might happen. A lot of times,
I've
like
never felt
when
that
you
kind of
see,
presence, whatever the feeling is. Like none of it.
you have to remember, like, I mean, God actually like revealing Himself in like a theophany. That's like very, very rare. There's not many people that have
No,
experienced a theophany, right?
it's not like I'm expecting him to show up and do a fucking magic trick and like a dog. Like I don't feel like any sort of like
So if it,
divine presence
well,
like
okay,
that.
so if the burning bush is not good enough, or if that's not what you're looking for, then like what are you looking for?
I like I said, I don't think I don't know. I I feel like people feel real because like you are one of the rare people that I know. Like, and my mother is another one. Like most people that I've talked to about this, like I feel like they're only religious because they're just that's what you have to do culturally. I feel like there's very few people that truly feel it in my life that I've known personally. I'm not making a generalized statement. I'm just saying to me anecdotally, there's only been a few people that have been like that. And so like I feel like that's really the only way to be a Christian is if you actually feel that presence and you try to live it out divinely. And anyone else that's doing it for whatever reason, like and I feel like this is like that with like the Italian way or like the cartel way. It's just like they don't actually believe in that shit. They just like want to do it as a method to cope. Like it's just a cultural thing for them. It's not an actual spiritual thing for them.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's people
So
like
it's
that everywhere. Everyone
that, and
has
that's what
their
I'm saying.
reasons, whether legitimate or not.
Right,
But are
and
you
what I'm saying is
saying,
that like I've never felt a legitimate like spiritual connection that from someone like you or my mom or like for people that I've known that have for me to me have done it for the right reasons or actually truly felt it in their heart. I have never felt that. And it's not for a lack of trying and it's not for a reason to rebel. It's just a natural feeling that it just has never been there. And that's what I'm saying. Like, so I don't know what it would take, and I guess like I wouldn't know until it happens. I truly
right, that's
don't
fair
know.
enough. But you're saying that people like me and your mom, like, do have like true convictions?
Yeah, I feel it
Okay,
because
okay, yeah.
that's what I'm saying. I've never felt that true conviction. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like it just hasn't happened ever.
I mean, I guess like thinking about it, like, does it happen all at once or is it kind of gradual? Like, I don't really know. I mean,
I mean, I grew up with it, so it's like,
right. Well, I mean, like everyone does kind of at some point or another has to like come to the crossroads where it's like either I'm in or I'm out, right? But
hmm
I think that like this is just kind of my personal experience. I mean, like for some people, that moment literally is like a single instance where I think like for some people like me, it was more of like a gradual kind of like, you know, awakening, if that makes sense.
yeah, no, I understand that the nuance of that, but like it's
You know,
I haven't felt anything gradual or anything instant. Like it's, and no, and I've tried, and I feel like and I mentioned before. I think the only time I've really like felt God's presence was when I was doing mission work. And like through the concept and through the emotions of community and like really connecting with people on a deep level like that, that's really what I feel like a twinge of some sort of like divine intervention or whatever the word is. But like when I sit down and I read or if I just really think about it, like I don't feel it. You know what I mean? Like I don't feel, and maybe it's just because it's like it's such a disconnect because not a lot of
mm,
people in our lives are like that and they live their lives totally different. And I've
mm,
always been more of a free spirit anyway, so I've always had the libertarian approach of like if it do whatever you want, as weird as it is, if it's not actually causing you harm, who gives a shit? It's none of my business. You know what I mean? So like I feel like I've gotten to know a lot of different people on a personal level, but I've never really known someone like that had too much conviction. You're really the only person that I know that's like this,
I don't know anyone else.
besides my mom. Besides my mom, no.
Really? Well,
Most people that I know that religious were struggling with it. You know, like not to get too personal, but like people that I'm close to, like they've had relatives die or something bad happens, and they go through a lot of time struggling and questioning their own faith. And so I'm kind of sitting there
mm,
like I don't want to influence either way, so I'm kind of watching them go through this process, and they're asking me for advice, and it's just like. I don't know. Besides, and I don't want to be like patronizing, like just follow your heart, you'll know what to do. I generally don't know,
but I mean, think
so it's
about it
like I'm
like
not
that way.
the
Like a lot of people, kind of like similar how you're not satisfied here, they wouldn't find that very satisfying.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. So it's like
But
I
don't you
don't push
think
that kind of
that
shit on people. I don't know.
right? But don't you think that like it would like be better to have like a worldview like mine? Like because I mean, people have asked me the same thing, and like, I mean, I've given them answers. I mean, some have liked them, some have not, but I think that's better than just telling them to just say like, oh, well, you'll know it. It's like, well, they, like
No, I don't say that to him. What I'm saying is like
okay.
that's why I don't say like I just try to be supportive and like I don't know what to say.
Well, I mean,
Where my point is
like,
like I don't push anything. Like I just kind of watch. It's like more an observance of what they're doing and going through and saying. You know what I mean? I
right.
don't. My
Well,
point is I've met very few people that have true conviction like that.
think about it like this. Like about a month ago, one of my really good friends, his friend who I'm not really close to, that he went to like high school with, his grandpa just died, and he was really bummed about it. Um, and what I told him was, well, man, you'll see him again one day. And he's not even particularly religious. Like I actually, his religiosity, I don't really know. If anything, I think he probably was doubting because he was probably like, why did God take my grandpa from me? But when I
Right.
told him that, he looked at me and he's like, you know what, man, you're right. I will see him again one day, and I could tell that like made a difference in his day, and hopefully, if
I mean,
then
it's
more
a
than
big
just
thing
beyond
to
the
hope
day.
for. Like you, like the like it's to me it's one of those things where like, would you rather believe in a truth that you'll never see anyone you'll ever love ever again once you die, or are you going to live in a truth where, when you do, you will? So I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like you kind of it doesn't. I mean,
Well, yeah,
it
like
doesn't really
are
matter.
you familiar with the Pascal's wager from
I feel like you've mentioned it before. I don't know. I don't retain fucking anything anymore. It's so bad.
right?
Fuck.
So Blaise Pascal was a French he was a French Catholic philosopher. He was also a scientist and a mathematician. Brilliant man. And he in his masterwork, the Pensée, which is just thoughts, he gives his case for Christianity in a very it's probably the most popular argument he makes. And it's not necessarily like a philosophical kind of position. It's more so like as a way of refuting atheism. It's more so just a kind of tool you can use to get people kind of more open to our ideas and to get them away from the more atheistic worldview. Like it's not like I said, like it's not the ultimate refutation of atheism, which I kind of tried to use with you earlier with like the transcendental argument. I think that's probably the strongest like philosophical, logical, and like mathematical like explanation for the existence of God. But the wager is basically just it's a sort of a thing to get you to think about it for a second, which is that if so hell exists or it doesn't exist. Okay, there's the possibility that it exists. So if there is a God and I live as and like if there is a God and I don't believe in him and I live my life according to however I want and then I die and then I realize that there is a God, I know I'm fucked. Whereas if okay, like there isn't a God, but I live my life as if there was, and I die, and I realize, oh well. But I know I got you die in peace, knowing you lived a good moral life, right? And so that's like the sort of like two options you have, right? So it's not the
Right.
answer to does like it's not proving whether or not God exists or not. It's just showing like, well, I mean, if he does, and you live as if he doesn't, then you're screwed. Whereas if he doesn't, but you live as if he does, then you will die at peace.
Absolutely, and that's the one thing is like if it truly doesn't matter in the end, you got to make the best life you can here on Earth and try to live it. I mean, and it's not like trying to like go wild and do whatever you want because that honestly is less fulfilling. Most people don't realize that like it doesn't take knowing a God exists to know that hedonism is not fucking fulfilling. It's always destructive. Like I don't know, it's not a to me that's not a hard concept to to think about.
Well, I mean, a lot of people when they're doing it, they don't want to. It's either they still think it will bring fulfillment or they just don't want to admit they're wrong, right? Because of pride. Like, I mean, I guarantee you, if I got like $1 million tomorrow, I know exactly how I would spend it, and I would not self destruct from it, right? Whereas a lot of people, if you did give them $1 million tomorrow, it would probably all
Like
be
going lotto
gone.
tickets.
Yeah, it would be gone in like not even like a week, you know?
You know, and we don't have to get into this. 'Cause it's kind of getting late, but
Right.
have you heard like a lot of? And we probably covered this with the fucking stupid goddamn private jet preachers, but I keep really seeing this narrative shift about a lot of like conservative Christian Americans really larping about the idea of material wealth and how Jesus wants you to be like materially successful.
Uh-huh.
That like I hear that so often. I thought it was like just a fringe network of people that were just like terminally online or just like people that are already billionaires in the religious market, so they just want to spew that shit anyway. But a lot of common people that I've like ran into in my life, they truly believe that now. It's really strange.
Well, I mean, yeah, they believe that because of the whole like if you're poor, that's a sign of weakness. You know, like the Andrew Tate kind of mentality.
But I know, but it's what I'm saying is like that's really more of our generation. I'm talking about like people that are older, like my parent. My parents don't believe this, but people my parents' age are believing this shit now. It's really fucking weird. And I keep seeing people like making new types of churches. Especially, you can tell it's more political than it is religious. It's supporting a right wing ideology more than it is actually worshiping Christ.
Yeah, it's like a
But it's so
snake
strange.
oil, yeah, like kind of like guru, like it's total bullshit, and it's just deceptive, and it's just to gain. I mean, it's just to gain money, power, whatever it is.
What is strange to me because like I like never in my life I've heard that shit growing up. It's always a sense of humbleness, like the fact that Jesus flew would never fly commercial. It's just like, what the fuck are y'all talking about?
I mean, I don't know, like I feel like, well, no, if anything, I mean, you see Jesus's choice to be born in poverty, right? And then he wears, just rags his whole life. That's like why when he comes in to the city of Jerusalem, when he's finally there, he comes in on a donkey, right? He doesn't come in a carriage, right? And that's why, like that, and like the rags. That's like why Pontius Pilate, when the Jews bring Jesus before him, he's like, "This is the guy who you're saying is the king of the Jews, like this dude," you know? Yeah. So if anything,
I
like the
know.
idea that he would fly with a private jet, like that's kind of thoughtful.
It's extremely the opposite. Like I don't know. Like it's but and I knew it's always there. And it's always been like amusing to me. But the fact that it's being more like mainstream is wild. Like I thought it was a fringe belief, but it's not.
No, it really isn't. I mean, or is Calvinism? A bunch of people believe in that, like double predestination and all that.
Hmm.
Which
I don't
I
know.
don't believe in double predestination. I believe in single predestination.
I don't think I've ever met anyone that has Calvinist beliefs. I don't know. Maybe
Really? Well,
I
I mean,
talk
are
to
you?
very few
Do you
people
know
this
what
way.
like that is though?
I don't remember what double is.
Double predestination is that you are either going to heaven or hell, and there is nothing you can do about it to change.
Oh, like you're pre okay. You're just destined for one or the other, no matter what you do.
Right. Whereas like I believe in single predestination in the sense that, yes, of course, God knows and God has decided it to be a certain way, but it's our choice too, you know?
I feel like I've only ever heard cults say the double one.
Well, a lot more than you think are cults.
Interesting. I've been, dude. I watched this crazy one about because I joke about it a lot, but it's like one of the last snake handling churches in West Virginia. If you ever see that documentary, you got to watch that shit. It's fucking wild. See, what
A
I didn't
snake
know
handling
was,
church. Wow.
do you know what that is?
It's like when they use the snakes in like their kind of ceremonies and like reenactments of like biblical events.
So
Like, yeah,
basically,
go on.
so the whole thing started from one passage. I don't know where it's from in the Bible, but basically it's take up thy serpents is where this whole thing started. So this one preacher in like Kentucky or Tennessee or some other buttfuck nowhereville land township whatever
Yeah.
basically was like it was a show of like it was a test of faith basically if you were to able to handle live deadly snakes and not get bit. It was basically to prove that God was protecting you and like that was his ultimate love for you. But a
Mm.
lot of these
Yeah.
churches were taking these like snakes and they were sedating them, or they were taking out their poison glands, and so it was a fucking scam because like you see all these preachers holding these like poisonous snakes, and then they weren't getting bit, and then people think, oh, he's either divinely inspired himself, or like the actual premise of holding a deadly snake and not getting bit is God protecting me. So they feel like they have more, immunity to things, and that also extends to drinking poison. So I am not shitting you. This one church in West Virginia, this pastor drinks like a small amount of rat poison,
Hmm.
and that is his proof that God is protecting him. But a lot of these
Well,
other
how do you
churches that
know that
don't stay
that's
like
rat
there's
poison?
I don't know. It's just what he said and what they've been told. But what people have gone to jail over, and the government's trying to shut them down, is because like for the churches that don't sedate them, like people have died and they don't believe in going into the hospital. So like if you're bit by like a fucking timber rattler in the mountains, like you're just gonna pray to be fine. You're not gonna get taken to the hospital. It's like there are people that have been died. Like this guy's pastor, like he said, his dad died doing it. It's just
Oh
like
wow.
it's crazy. You
Well,
gotta watch this shit, dude. It's fucking insane.
thank God Catholicism doesn't have any of that.
Yeah, it's like y'all just whip yourselves. That's it.
I mean, that's just Gnosticism. Like, it's just, yeah, no, it's just Gnosticism where it's like inappropriate asceticism, if that makes sense.
Asceticism.
Yeah, you know what that is, right?
I don't know what asceticism means. So.
Asceticism is basically, it's kind of like the opposite of hedonism, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay.
Where it's like letting go of like pleasures, but like it's in the sense of like,
Like a monk.
right, but like it becomes wrong when it becomes an end in and of itself to achieve some sort of, like hidden knowledge or enlightenment, right? Or just to like achieve some certain like feeling, right? Like that's when it's wrong, and that's one of the key principles of Gnosticism. Because you got to remember, Gnosticism is about it comes from the Greek word gnosis, which means to know, and just it's about knowing, and the more you know, you're saved through what you know.
Yeah, it's a version of enlightenment. It's knowledge and wisdom.
Yeah, it's just knowledge. Yeah. But and so like yeah, so of course like this preacher telling you like going through these tests of like like with the snakes, like that's just I mean that's just like inappropriate, like perverted asceticism.
I just think it's crazy. Like it all started from one passage. Like what is it even like? Do you even know what it's referencing? I don't even know what the context of "Take up thy serpents" is.
Take up the was I
I
mean
don't know what the greater.
I understand. I know like Moses had like the staff that like God told him like you can call upon this and it will turn into like the snake, like to show my power.
Let me.
Remember, like remember in the Prince of Egypt when he like he like takes his staff and he like hits it on the ground and it becomes a snake.
Okay.
I guess
So
I'm not sure.
so I just googled. Apparently, it's a verse from Mark 16:18. It says, "They shall take up serpents, and if they drink any deadly thing, it shall not hurt them. Um, they shall lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover." Oh, that's right. They had a big thing about healing too. So like they're
Oh
one of those like Pentecostal miracle shits too. So apparently it's from Mark 16:18, but I don't know like the
well, yeah, it's just to show that
concept
like
of it.
God is like with you and whatnot.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no,
So I guess they took that literally.
right, yeah. Yeah, anointing of the sick is a big I mean it's a sacrament in Catholicism.
But who are they? Who is? I guess you don't know what it was referencing when it says they shall take up serpents if they drink any thing and shall not hurt them. Like
No, and that's you might understand this. Like this is just kind of like another pet peeve I have of like Like sometimes when like you're looking at like the English Bible, it's just sometimes it can be confusing of like what is being referenced. Whereas like if you look at like the Greek, which like that it, and like the Hebrew, it becomes more clear who is actually in question.
That's what I was saying. Like, I don't know the context, and they didn't explain that. So, like, who's the they? Like, what is this even refer? Like, I don't even know. Like, I have no context to it. It's funny how they develop an entire sect of
Yeah.
Christianity off of a fucking one verse.
Oh well, yeah. There's like you could look at every single verse in the Bible, and there's probably like 17 different denominations that came just from that one verse.
Yeah, and it's just like, what?
Because
Why?
remember I told you like that the that there was like that what was it? It was like oh yeah, because like there's stuff in the Bible that like if you don't truly understand the context, like if you just take it at face value, it is literally batshit crazy. Like it
Yeah.
is literally crazy. Like if you read the Book of Revelation and stuff like that, and you don't properly understand the context, or like if you know like there's that passage. I think it's um like yeah, like the prophet Elijah or one of the prophets, like he's like really old, and then there's some kids that are like making fun of him or something, and then he like calls upon God, and then God like literally a bear just appears out of the woods and mauls the kids, and it's like what?
See, I've always thought most parts of that of the Bible were just allegorical.
What do you
It
mean?
wasn't meant. It wasn't meant to be taken literally.
I mean, most of it is real.
No, I meant like when it.
Well, when it comes to those things, I mean, I I want to. I mean, that verse specifically, I'd probably have to see what was going on before and after and whatnot, because I don't know every single thing in it. But like the whole creation and all that stuff. I mean, like all that's real.
No, no, I'm saying like the stories like that, or like I still don't know like
Or like
the discrepant.
Leviathan and all that.
Yeah,
Well, Leviathan's real too.
what a big serpent creature.
Yeah, you think that doesn't exist?
I mean, maybe in like prehistoric times. I don't fucking know. It's like people are still trying to see if the megalodon was not extinct.
Well, I mean, because well, you have to remember. I mean, like I mean, I sometimes like I don't want to be labeled as this just because of like the connotations. Because, but I mean, like I guess like just by the definition, like you could call me a creationist, but that doesn't mean I don't believe in dinosaurs. I just think like I think dinosaurs were around not as long ago as we think, you know, and like
So, do you think the Earth is 6,000 years old?
at least it could be
What do you
more.
mean at least?
I mean, yeah, just through written records, you know that the Earth is at least 6,000 years old.
Well, we also have. Well, I mean, I guess I don't know how much you believe in carbon dating then, because you still have to date those, artifacts and passages and stories to a time. Because we have prehistorical artifacts that we have dated to things older than 6,000 years.
Yeah, but I mean, like, were you there 6,000 years ago? Oh,
No,
sorry.
that's my point.
Sorry,
If you
were
don't
you
have any
there? No,
credence
no, I'm
to
sorry.
carbon
Were
dating,
you there like a million years ago? No.
no, I know that's what I'm saying. If you don't hold any credence to carbon dating, then yeah, then there is no proof. I don't fucking know.
I mean, I hold
I'm not a
some, but
scientist.
like, if you want to go back like before like 6 or 8,000 years, I mean, that requires extrapolation, right? And then you have to assume that these processes have always operated this way, which like what's you don't have a justification to believe in that. Like, how do you know that these processes by which you can know like all these carbon things and that like all these processes of like how carbon works like how do you know that it was operating in the same way like 10 million years ago like speculating about what a monkey was doing 11 million years ago like that's bullshit like that's science fiction.
I don't know. Like I said, I think the Earth is older than 6,000 years. So I think that's not that much time.
Can you see what I'm saying is that it's at least
No, I get
6,000
what you're
years old
saying.
because that's the farthest back that we have written records of things.
But that's because we haven't found anything older yet. We're starting to find like rock formations and and hieroglyphs that are 12,000 years old, so pre-Sumerian.
Yeah,
So we just
I'd
haven't
be
found
open
them
to
yet.
that, but like maybe if the world is older, that's kind of, I mean, like, all right, whatever.
So you don't think
But
the world is older than humans? You don't think the Earth is like millions of years old?
well, no, I mean, I believe in the account of creation.
Well, what is the account of creation?
I mean, like, you've never read the opening of Genesis?
Yeah, a long fucking time ago. I don't know the
That
time frame. When
God,
people talk about a time frame, I was always confused. I don't ever
right,
remember
right, right.
reading a time frame.
Well, it's just that God created the earth in 7 days, and He created. I think He
Well,
created human beings on the.
yes, 7 days. How long ago though? That's
Well, right. I
there's
mean, as
never
far as
a
we could
specific
tell, I mean,
description of like when the Earth was created and when people were created and when everything else was created. Like there's no
yeah.
specifics.
But as far as we could tell, like human beings,
And what is a day?
a day is the
Well, you could
sun.
also say that God's concept of a day could be his different concept from a human day. Like you know what I mean? Like
No,
it's
that's a
like you're
fair
trying to measure
question, but
something.
you have to look at, because I mean, like Moses wrote the Genesis account. Like the concept they had of a day was just like from when the sun sets to when the sun rises. They didn't
Right.
necessarily have the metric of like hours, right?
No,
That
I know.
hadn't
My
really
point
been.
is like
No,
it's not specific enough to me in the Bible to
but
really.
they thought of the days as just the sun like sets and rises. Like that's what a day is. Yom is the word in Hebrew. Um, like a day is just when the sun is up, right? Um,
Right. No, I get the. My point is like there's no specific delineation of time between when the Earth was created and when man was created. There is no specifics. It just says create Earth on this amount of days, stay rested, and then eventually humans were made. Like
no, no,
there is no
the
passage of
humans were
time, right?
specific. They were made on a specific day. Um,
Within that 7 days.
yes, I want to say he was. They were. I think that we were the last thing he created. I think it was the sixth on the sixth day, and then the seventh day, of course, he rested. That's why we Sunday is the Sabbath, right?
Right.
Um, well, yeah, and of course, given like what you have to go off of, like what was the Hebrew concept of a day? Um, I believe that it was 7 days that he created the whole world. Yeah.
I don't know. I can't prove it either way. It just makes more sense that it's older than 6,000 years. Like that makes more sense to me than something was created in 7 days.
Well,
I don't know.
well, why?
I don't know. It just makes more sense to me
Well, why?
because it feels like we have more than 6,000 years of, artifacts in a human timeline,
Well,
and we have more like.
have you been around to observe all those years?
No, I know that. I'm saying it makes
Right.
more
So then
sense for
this
me to believe it. I
that
know I
doesn't
wasn't
make
fucking there
like that's then there's that's not as good of a reason of than the view I have because like
because
I
it's more information. This is what I'm saying. It's more information than one
doesn't
sentence.
matter if it's more information if the information is made up. I mean, like all
No,
of
I
that
get it. I'm just
evolution
saying
crap, that's all made up. Like that was
I'm not
literally
talking about
like
evolution. I'm just saying more than
it
6,000
feeds
years
into
of
that
recorded
because
history on this
evolution
planet.
also relies on the idea that the Earth is like a billion years old or whatever, and that's how like they say that as like a cope of like, oh well, you see, because now we have the evidence that the Earth is actually older than how old we thought it was before. Then given just this time, of course, this stuff is bound to happen, and it's like, well, no, just a matter of time. Like that doesn't mean anything, right? And so, like, I can believe that the account in Genesis is true because God was actually there, right? Whereas no human being observed like the Big Bang, right? That's all like a theory and speculation. I'm not saying you believe because I know there's scientists that don't believe in the specific model of the Big Bang or whatever it is, but no one.
A lot of them are actually challenging it now.
Right, but so the thing, yeah. So the thing is, like, whether it's evolution or like Big Bang, or you believe that the Earth started like a billion years ago, it's like you weren't around to see any of that. right? Whereas
I don't know. I don't
God
know when
was
it
there.
started. I'm not claiming to follow the evolutionary track to billions of years of when they were started. I'm just saying, like, I don't know. With all the evidence we have right now on Earth, I feel like 6,000 years is not old enough. I feel like it's not 6,000 years. I feel like it's. I don't know how old it is, but I feel like 6,000 is too short.
Well, I mean, if this can kind of reconcile with it a little bit, you have to remember God is outside of time, right? So it's like,
So then, what is the point of delineating a specific number of time?
what do you mean?
Why is it 6,000 years then?
No, just because that's all we could tell going back with like written records and things of human civilizations. Because like the seven like major outposts or human civilization all just kind of started at this like one point simultaneously, which is very curious. Like the
I don't believe that. I think that as also has a good debate of being challenged too. That's what I'm saying. Like I think our prehistory is very murky, and like as the years go by, we're trying to find more evidence, and some of it's coming forward about civilizations being slightly older. I don't think everything started at one point. 6,000 years ago. I think that's a narrative that's being challenged. So that's what I'm saying. Like
well,
I
that's
don't
a
know what the
narrative that's
metric
been
is.
challenged ever since like the 1800s, of course. But
One, I know, but
no, but as
we're
far
finding
as
tangible evidence of it now. Is what I'm saying.
right, but the metrics used, like, you're never gonna know if it's like a million years ago. Like what? Because like you weren't around. Because like you have to remember, science is what is in question of like what you can observe through empirical, what you can empirically observe, right? What was happening 11 million years ago? That's not empirical. You can't observe that, right?
No, I get it. And I think when you're talking about that amount of time, that's crazy. I'm saying it's not 6,000 years old. I don't know if it's millions or if it's a little bit thousands more. What I'm saying is that like there's very good cases to support that like there's artifacts older than 6,000 years. You don't have to go millions of years
Well, I
back.
just said like it's not like an arbit like it doesn't have to be 6,000. It's just like it's maybe 6,000, maybe eight, maybe even 10, right? Probably in that range. Maybe yeah, 12, probably in that range. But I'm saying like anything like if it's like when you get to like the 100,000 or the million, like that's like okay. Does that make sense?
I guess I don't know. I feel like to me it's kind of ridiculous to kind of impose both. I don't know. I
Well, the
also don't
point
know what the
is,
reasoning is for
well,
dating the Earth. I don't know what the thing. I don't know.
the point is that God created the earth and he created the whole world, right? Like that's really the takeaway. Sometimes the debate about like how old it is can just kind of be pointless. But like Mara, I was just trying to show you how like a lot of the stuff in the Bible is like not mere allegory or metaphor, like it is real. Um and then like the flood, I mean that's totally real.
There are evidences of a lot of floods, so
Yeah, no, it's
there had to.
fascinating, dude. Like people have like scientists have observed like valleys and canyons forming like in our lifetimes, and like these erosion, like it happens very quickly. And like also, dude,
Yeah.
they found like skeletons of like whales and fish like up in the mountains. It's crazy.
Yeah. Also, in like the well, that's the other thing too. Like, is a bigger supporter of how old the Earth is. Is they found whale bones and other sea life fossils in the Sahara Desert, and that hasn't been a fucking ocean for millions of years, is what they theorize. So like,
Well, that's what
you always have the question like,
I
well, how
don't
did that
buy.
shit get
Like that
there?
shit just, I mean, that all came about in the flood. Like that shit happened really, really quickly. And also, can you see
Yeah,
how
there's
like I
another.
believe in dinosaurs because I mean, not only do we have the fossils, but also like I mean, the Bible talks about all of these like fantastical creatures and beasts, even like dragons. I believe in them too.
We don't have any physical evidence for dragons.
No, I know, but like I mean, there's more than just dragons that like I still
Wait,
um
how a drag? Is there a reference to dragons in the Bible, like a flying reptilian creature thing?
yeah, I'm sure that it is in there like in like I forget if it's in Genesis or like it's in one of the books of the Torah like the first five books of the Bible. Like it talks about like like beasts and like fantastical creatures and also like the Nephilim, like the giants.
Hmm.
Yeah, so like there is reference for giants and also like there's stuff like outside of the Bible, like like Saint George is famous for slaying the dragon and whatnot. But also you have to understand that dragon doesn't just mean like it doesn't exclusively mean um like a flying serpent. It literally just means serpent. Like it's a synonym with serpent. Some of them fly, some of them don't.
Right.
So like I feel like this is more of like a arbitrary answer. This is more just my personal opinion, but I just feel like okay, well, we have lizards and we have like Komodo dragons and all these sort of like reptilian creatures. I'm like maybe at some point they were flying. And that's why every single human civilization has some sort of depiction of dragons. That's another fascinating thing.
I guess technically, if you really think about it, pterodactyls are dragons. I guess in its
Yeah,
definition.
part of it. Yeah, no, and I believe in the dinosaurs. I just think they were here on Earth like a lot uh like not as far back as we think. And they were just like wiped out in the flood, you know.
Hmm.
Because the worldview I have, like we believe that well, obviously things didn't evolve in the Darwinian sense. Like they micro evolve, right? Like I mean, obviously change over time. Like of course things change over time, and like certain you make adaptations and whatnot. Um, but like God created every animal, every species, like in its like fullest form, right? So like he didn't create like the egg, like he created the chicken, right? Does that make sense? Like he created a chicken in its
Yeah.
adult form, right? But that's another interesting question that I remember I got asked um in physics class when we were talking about this, like the philosophy of science and the creation account and whatnot. And what's really really cool is the concept of like, well, okay, like Adam and Eve were adults, but they really weren't alive for like have you ever thought about that? Like once they were born, so to speak, they were already adults. Like have you ever thought about that? That's kind of interesting.
I don't remember having that context. I just always.
But like, do you understand how like Adam and Eve were never babies and they were never infants? Like
Yeah.
they were just
No, I
yeah. So
understand.
like in our
I
worldview,
never thought about it.
right? So in our worldview, like God created things in their fullest like form, right? Like they're adult, complete. Well, yeah, complete. That's the word. He created everything in its complete form.
Complete.
Yeah. So like you know, the whales were the fully formed whale, and that's also like how well like not only did sin come into the world, but also like that's how disease came into the world, right? And how it's like it's like incomplete, because if you have like a disorder or a disease, you're incomplete. You know what I mean?
Did they ever find or is there ever any reference to like the Garden of Eden? Like, do people like claim that's to be somewhere here on Earth still, or like where it was, or just geographically
Um,
adjacent?
we don't truly know, but the vast majority of scholars believe it was in Iraq, like somewhere there, but we don't really, really know that.
Not somewhere in Africa.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it could be. I don't really know. Um, I mean, that's like, I mean, when you look there, I mean, like I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, that's right by like Mesopotamia and like the cradle of civilization and all that.
Because it was, the birthplace of modern humans, supposedly, is somewhere around Kenya, or at least it's the oldest that they've found. So somewhere in central North Africa.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, no, it's fascinating. Yeah, this has been a very, very delightful conversation. It's getting late. I do.
Fucking beat.
Yeah, I have to go. I
A fucking.
have to work tomorrow.
Would you say you're on a yacht? Would you just
No, I
say?
have to work tomorrow. I'm not going on a yacht.
I swear, I must be going
And if I
delirious
do
now,
go
but
on
I'm
a
fucking
yacht,
beat.
it's because Jesus wants me to go. Yeah,
That's right. Jesus wouldn't go on a ferry. He'd have a yacht.
dude, he'd have a private jet. He'd have his yacht. He would have his.
Private jet stream.
Yeah, exactly. He would have his mansion.
Oh fuck.
Well,
All right, man.
yep. It's been great talking to you, man. I'm glad we're back at it.
I'm excited.
We're getting back in it. All right.
Hell yeah, bro.
Good night, man.
See ya.